Oh my god, can I please turn off the auto translation in the chat because it's so annoying. It translates hi to this? What the hell is this doing? Please, do not give me this. Oh my god. Hello everybody, I hope you're all doing well. Let me switch on the camera here just a sec. Okay. We are here. Hello Pewdie. Hello Lily. Rishik Kades? Sorry if I mispronounced that. Hello Charlie. Hello Rustam. Good to see you all. Mountain Goat. I love the name. Specifically 11, right? The other 10? No. 11. That's where it's at. Hello Abdu. Good to see you all here. Hope you're all doing well. What the hell was happening today in the shop? Honestly? So we have like a local supermarket like across the road. And it is a bank holiday here today, right? I felt like I got transported back to like COVID. People, all the aisles, like all the tills were open, and people were standing in line until the back of the shop. It's like freaking mental. Oh my god. I thought I missed something on the news or something like that, like honestly. But I think it's just because like it's the only shop in the neighborhood that's open, so everyone literally just flooded over here, which is crazy. Did anyone actually enjoy COVID? Well, I kind of did. I mean, obviously, like, notwithstanding, like, all the human suffering and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think for me, it made me realize, like, a bunch of stuff that I was doing that wasn't really working. For example, like, spending, like, 3 hours a day, like, commuting, right? Like, that opened up, like, my eyes to just being like, oh my god, yeah, why am I doing this? You know? That was one of it. And for me, like work-related, it was a good test to see if I could go freelance. As in, like, can I self-motivate and can I don't know, keep myself motivated? And it was a good test for the stuff that I wanted to do for the longest time anyway. Yeah, the things that I didn't like about it was that we were just like shut off from other people, right? It was a bit traumatizing for us. So some fun stuff's been there. Well, yeah, here's the thing, right? Like, there's definitely been good and bad things about it. As in, like, the change in my social battery. Like after COVID, I really struggled to talk to people. Like, I felt awkward in conversations, you know? And I never really had that feeling before. Where, sure, yeah, sometimes, like, in the opening of a conversation, there might be, like, a little bit of an awkwardness there, but never really had it to that degree where... Yeah, never really had it to that degree where it was... I really felt it, you know? So that was a weird thing about it. Like, for the first time, I really struggled just, like, talking to people again. Which was really weird. But that is also like, I mean, that's also saying this without like any of my family really getting affected by it, you know? Yeah, not direct family, but yeah. It happened in the middle of uni for me, kind of ruined it. Plus, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like having people you know pass away during that whole thing. Yeah, I was really... I mean, we have a small family anyway. There's only a handful of us. So yeah, the people that were in the risk factor, they weren't around even when COVID came around. So yeah, is that a normal amount of commuting? Like 3 hours a day? I know for some people it is. I mean, my partner currently is doing like 2 hours and a half or something like that a day. Not ideal, not ideal, but I wouldn't consider that a normal amount of commuting. Like if I get like a future job, I think that's going to be one of my main priorities in just being like, it needs to be closer than, God, what would be the maximum amount? I think like an hour or something like that is like the literal max that I would do. Ideally, it would be under 30 minutes though. Yeah, maybe an hour is already real long. Maybe like 45 minutes. Because here's the thing, right? Like, if your normal commute is like an hour, let's say, and then stuff is gonna go wrong, it always does, you know? Then it turns into like an hour and a half really easily, and then it's like, oh my god. Again, you're spending like 3 hours a day just like commuting, you know? It's crazy. Lily enjoyed COVID for the first few months. Yeah, I think that was a feeling for a lot of people, right? Like the beginning of it. But yeah, I mean, we're not gonna keep talking about COVID. Trust me. But yeah, how's everyone's week been? How are we all doing? Anyone building some exciting stuff? Let me know about it. Because I was still working up until like way too late tonight. Like trying to figure out like, so I showed you the voting for the judges on Wednesday, right? So we have a dedicated page now to help the judges like vote and all that kind of stuff for the team challenge. I'm also setting up a page that does the somewhat of a similar way for the community as well. So it will literally show you like an overview of all the team challenges, and you can pick your 3 favorite ones, and that becomes the community vote. So I've been setting that page up. And then today I'm going to do a lot more work on the website and the front page and all that kind of stuff to make it look yes. Ilya is saying difficult with the team challenge. Okay. I mean, it's the final week, right? Final week. Last push. So, yeah. Keep hanging in there. And if we can help it anything, feel free to let us know. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing like all the submissions come in. It's gonna be really cool to see. Yeah, it's so quick. Yeah, tomorrow's the delivery date already, which is crazy. You landed an 80 level article, Rustam. That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations. Charlie is asking, how strict are studios with arriving times? I've heard some of them have core hours, but fairly relaxed as long as you're there for that time and get the work done. So all the studios that I've worked for had core hours. That means usually you have your core hours from 10 in the morning till 4 in the evening, right? Those are your core hours. So that's when everyone has to be in the office. The thing is, you always have to do a certain amount either per day or per week. It depends on what company you work for, right? For example, the difference is per day is you always have to do like, let's say 8 hours a day, right? You have to clock in, and then let's say if you clock in at, let's say 10, then you'll have to stay until 6, right? To do your full 8-hour cycle, and then potentially plus the lunch that you take as well, right? Depending on that too. I've always preferred the week method, and those are the 2 last companies that I worked for. So Ubisoft and Playground Games, they had this sort of idea that sure, you have your core hours, and you have some flexibility with how you have to be there for the core hours for sure, but you have some flexibility in which you then decide to dedicate your hours a day, right? So you could be like, hey, today I have a really busy day, so I'm gonna stay like an hour extra. And then the next day you could be like, ooh, I don't really feel good, or I don't know, like I don't really feel motivated today, so you could take like 2 hours less. And then at the end of the week, you just have to look at the bulk of your hours. If you hit like all your hours a week, then you're fine, right? But yeah, you have to be there for core hours though. It depends. Some companies are like really strict with it, right? Like some companies literally have you badge in or do some other ritual to have you badge in, right? Like other companies are less strict with that, so they don't have a way to like put you into the system. Yeah, for example, yeah, for both like the two last companies, we had key cards, right? Like personalized key cards that you would use to get into the building and to get into the office and to get into all the meeting rooms and all that kind of stuff. And it made it easy for you to book meeting rooms, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a good reminder though. So if people are joining for this live stream, feel free to ask any questions. I myself am a senior environment artist. I have 10 years of experience in the industry. So if you want to ask me any questions about games, anything about like making environment art, how it is to work in the games industry, anything like that, feel free to ask away. Hello, Shitty Podcast. Good to see you. Happy to see you here too. And yeah, for today, we're going to be looking at two portfolios. Let me actually look. Who are we going to be looking at today? Doo-doo-doo. Pam, pam, pam. We've got Nicoletta and Darius. Darius Jover and Nicoletta Valentinova. Awesome. We will definitely have a look. Then we have a good amount of people still in the back catalog as well. I think, oh, there's double sign up. So I think next week we're looking at Andrei and Volodymyr. Could be cool. Volodymyr is such a badass name. Oh my god, it's Darius. Yeah, I'm gonna be curious with Darius. Just in terms of, I know that the work that he puts out is really good, right? So I think if I have to anticipate what we're gonna be talking about there, is that we're gonna be talking about like a little bit of the state of the industry, I think. Focus and Fractured. Hey, new here. I'm a guy trying to get into the games industry. Now 8 years since I graduated from uni. Oh, awesome. How was that going? 8 years since you graduated from uni. So, did you graduate from like a game specific course then, or? Oh God, yeah, I know, Lily. Well, here's the thing, right? Like I'm gonna give you like a little spoiler for probably what I'm gonna say already. It is gonna be like sometimes you are really good at what you do, but you have to be in that right time and place to land a position somewhere, right? Or to get the attention. Yeah, but we will talk about that. You did games at uni, always wanted to be an environment artist? Hey, let's go, environment artist. I was working in motion graphics for a while. Oh, okay, cool. My buddy in uni did motion graphics too. Best friend in uni. Nah, don't cry, Lily. We'll get it. We'll get it. But yeah, what else is happening? We had a nice discussion yesterday about add-ons in Blender, because some people are transitioning into Blender and they were asking like, oh, what kind of add-ons do I use? You know, and it was interesting. I wanted to open up about that a little bit because I think, sure, in the beginning, Blender is known as being like very add-on heavy, right? And it's really known for being so heavy on add-ons, even compared to like other programs, right? But I don't think you should start with add-ons from scratch, you know? In the beginning, what I would always recommend, I think what I would always recommend is just start from scratch. Don't start with any add-ons. Get used to the program, like find your own routine and how it works. And then after a while, you just start filling in the gaps of things that don't work so well with add-ons. Because the issue is, if you start looking at like everyone's list, you are probably gonna see a bunch of common ones like machine. God dang it! What is that tool set for like hard surface modeling, right? Like There's an add-on in Blender, machine something, I can't think about the name. Very useful for hard surface modeling. And I did the issue. Yeah, HardOps. HardOps is also one of them. I think. God, whatever. HardOps is a good example, right? Mesh Machine, that's it. But both of those are good examples, right? Where they are really, really good add-ons for specific workflows, right? Whereas if I'm just doing organic modeling, I will never use them. Never. I have bought them. I have the paid license and all that kind of stuff. I've never used them because they're just not useful for the workflow that I have, right? So that is my thought process of trying to save you, well, both time and money, where you can just basically get what you need whenever you need it, right? There's a couple of free ones that I use. I mentioned them yesterday as well. The Edit Edge Flow, I find that so useful. Like, honestly, where you can just... I mean, you can also get like loop tools or something like that, which sort of does the same thing and has like a bunch of other stuff. The only thing that I care about is just when I select a loop and I want to average it out between like the other two loops behind it and like make a smooth curve. That's all I care about. So I just use Edit Edge Loop, Edit Edge Flow, and that is like it's a free plugin that you can just find online, which is awesome. The other thing that I use is like ZenUV, but that is specifically for the work that I do, right? I was specifically interested in its hot spotting techniques. So basically what that is you can make a very detailed trim sheet that has like all the stuff that you need based on the sizes of the items that you need them for. And then hot spotting basically just automatically assigns them to the correct space in your UVs based on the size of your 3D mesh, which is really, really cool. But the rest of it, those are... And then, so yeah, some other things like Quadrify and all that kind of stuff built into ZenUV is really good. But other than that, I don't really use it that much, right? So I just wanted to say that you don't have to get add-ons when you switch to any program, but Blender specifically. I had a friend of mine ask me if I had a backup just in case it doesn't work out, and now my anxiety has been through the roof about the future. Well, yeah, here's the thing though, like I guess we're gonna talk about like the industry and its future like more in a little bit, but I never liked the idea or even the question of like, hey, what if games don't exist? What are you gonna do? It's like, the fuck? Like, games are here now. You know, like they are a thing. And if that thing falls away for whatever reason, first of all, it's not going to happen quick. And second of all, I can gradually pivot, you know, and that is very normal. But it's almost like saying like, hey, you're in construction. What if people don't need houses anymore? Right. It's like, okay, you can start thinking about that as like a hypothetical situation. But you're never going to encounter that in your life ever. So what's the point? It's kind of like, I don't know. It kind of feels like an empty conversation to have, you know? I mean, your friend specifically, Lily, asked if you had a backup. I think that's a more sensible question to ask, right? Because, I mean, there's so much more that we can do with our 3D skills that we don't even think about, right? But if I also look at like where I was back in the day when I was a student, I only wanted to do this one thing with it. Like, I didn't care about the other stuff, you know? I know that there's VR and I know that there's architectural visualization and I know that you can get into movies and I know you can do like all this other stuff, you know? Like, there's people from my uni that went into like medical modeling, right? Like doing like medical presentations and doing like botanical renderings and all that kind of stuff. You can do some cool stuff with it, but I didn't care about that. I wanted to make a world where I can walk through and I can build it myself, right? That's always been the thing. So it's almost like saying like, hey, I know that you wanted to... Again, I'm so torn between this, right? Because you don't... It's a fair question to ask from like a very logical perspective, but you don't want to take away the person's intentionality and like drive to go for the thing that they really want to go for, right? Hello, Thomas. How's your day going? Yeah, it's going good. It's going good. Thank you for asking. I am getting some hay fever sniffles though, so you might see me. Yeah, you might see me snotter away. Hopefully not too much though. That was disgusting. Why did I even say that? Oh my god. Anyway, let's see. I think I've disappeared from the queue in the portfolio reviews. Did you? I don't see your name in it, but that probably means that you didn't submit it, right? I'll check it after the stream. Feel free to send me a message about it on Discord. Tried to get to CD Projekt Red, but thankfully landed another environment art job. Hey, congratulations, Camille. Congratulations on getting into the industry. Yeah, that's also another thing, right? Like, it's good to have that ambition to go for like the big AAA studios, but usually it takes a little bit of time to get there, right? Like you need to sharpen your tools before you then get to that place, right? Because the chances that you're gonna get into one of the bigger AAA studios is gonna be relatively small. Talking about CD Projekt Red, the Devil 1100 is asking, so they're doing summer internships for students. I saw the pay is quite low. Is it because it's mostly about learning experience and not about earning money? No, I think it has to do with the cost of living in Poland. But I mean, it depends on which studio it was, right? Because it has so many studios now. So if you're talking about like the Polish studio, that is probably because the cost of living is like way lower, right? So here's the thing that you always need to keep in mind when you're comparing like pay brackets from different companies, right? You can look at the income, but you also want to check that versus the expenses that you're going to incur too, right? Because if you don't know how you're going to be spending living there, then it almost doesn't matter what the income is because you have no clue how much a percentage is going to be, right? So for example, you could be making like, I don't know, let's name a fictional number, right? Let's say you make like 8,000 a month. Sounds really good, right? But if you have to spend like 4,000 a month on that on rent alone, it doesn't sound that great anymore, right? So I would always look at the comparison there. There's like, this is probably my favorite site when it comes to this, Numbeo. I'll link the link. But it allows you to compare cost of livings in different locations. It's a really good tool where you can just type in like 2 locations, so you can pick something that you're familiar with. So let's say like I live close to Antwerp, right? So for me, that would be like Antwerp, Belgium. Well, actually, we'll have a look at it now, right? The site is not really that interesting to look at, but it's really interesting to use. So if we do Antwerp, Belgium, and then we say like, okay, I want to compare Antwerp with another city. And then let's say we're going for Leamington Spa, that's where I was before. We can then see, oh, the cost of living in Antwerp is like 7.5% higher, right? But rent prices are like 33% lower than in Leamington Spa. So it gives you the really good idea of what the comparison is between those 2 locations. So I always use this tool whenever I'm trying to really figure out what my next move is gonna be in life, you know, so that I can get like an idea of what I can do with the same amount of money, right? This also gives you like a lot of data when you want to do salary negotiations too, right? Because let's say company X offers you, I don't know, 20,000, and then you say like, yeah, that's not gonna be enough because like a normal rent is already gonna be like almost that, right? So it gives you like a lot of data to compare to. But yeah, I think stuff like this is really, really interesting to highlight. Let's see. About the summer internship, they rejected me because I don't have a visa to work in Poland. Where are you from, Galazar? If you don't mind me asking. Like, what country? Because, I mean, first of all, yeah, that is unfortunate, but yeah, it's probably going to be like a pretty common case for a lot of people that they get rejected based on their visa, right? I had to go through like an extensive visa process as well to work for like UK companies. So yeah, that's unfortunately a part of the deal as well. So yeah, I hope you find something else. Focus and Fractured, dream job. I live in Krakow. I love to travel to Warsaw every day for an internship. Yeah, I mean, you have to... yeah, I mean, so here's the thing, right? Like in the beginning of your career, money is not going to be that important, right? It is more about getting the experience, getting your foot into the door, and all those different things, right? And then after a certain point, that then transitions into like, okay, am I going to keep chasing like the better and better job and the more interesting project, or am I going to put myself first? And that's the situation that I find myself in currently, right? Because at a certain point, like you can keep chasing the industry job, but yeah, there's going to be a limit to that, right? Everyone's limit is going to be different. Yeah. I live in Israel. Yeah, unfortunately, that's probably why, right? I don't get why you're posting such a big opportunity on LinkedIn, but only if you have a visa living in Poland, you can apply for this job. Well, actually, that's very common. That is very common. It is very common because it has to do with a lot of like local government laws, right? So for example, I can bet you, and again, like I'm just assuming here, I don't know the rules because the rules are like very tricky to follow and they're like different for every country, right? But you probably, as a company hiring people from your country, you get benefits as a company running a scheme like that, right? Whereas if you then decide to like hire someone else from external, you don't get those benefits, right? So there's a financial incentive for you to do this stuff, right? Because from like a country perspective, you want to nurture your own internal industry, right? And that is the way to do it. And they probably also have, I mean, this also sucks for you, right? But they probably have like a bunch of like links with local educational things. They also host like Promised Land, right? Like that's their thing, when it's basically an art fair, but also a job fair for them too. So yeah, I think it gets very tricky. But yeah, it's really interesting. So during COVID, or like before COVID and during COVID, we went through this boom of just people like, basically the money was free almost. That's what it felt like, right? And people got hired from like all over the place. That is done. That is done. Like companies are really strapped for cash. So they're going to look more local, right? Because the money is scarcer. And if they can get those like incentives from the government, that's what they'll be using, right? Again, not ideal if you then want to travel, or well, not say want to travel, but like want to get that job in a different country. You'll have to see what the current pathway is for you, right? Devil is asking, is it common to get into a AAA studio as a student, or do people usually join indie studios before that? I don't think it's common. I think you have to be really good to get into a AAA studio, just because the competition is way higher, right? So I don't think yeah, I don't think it's that common to get into a AAA studio from the start, you know? I don't want to say that it doesn't happen, but it's not common, I would say. then not the then it's not the best to live in Belgium. Well, I think we have a benefit here, right? Like in Europe, if you have a Schengen visa, it doesn't matter where you want to live in Europe. You can just literally pack up and go and leave to the next country if you wanted to. That is the benefit, right? So I mentioned, and I'll talk about it in a little bit. I had to get a UK visa, which was like quite an intensive process. But I could literally cancel my rent today, move to Germany, and then just like sign up, and I could live in Germany, right? That's literally what we did when I moved to Ubisoft Berlin. Like it was literally just as simple as just traveling there. Well, simple. It's not that simple. You still have to go through like the government bureaucracy and all that kind of stuff. But there's no visa blocking you from doing it. What visa is this? The Schengen visa. So this is a visa that I guess it's not a visa, but people living in Europe, they can literally move internally within European countries. So there's no barriers, there's no borders, it's all open. So yeah, if you get that visa, I think, again, I have never had to apply for this, right? But oh no, a Schengen visa is actually different. So this is for travel. Sorry. Is an entry permit for non-EU nationals to make a short temporary visit up to 90 days in any... Okay, so this is different. But if you get like a worker visa in Europe, you probably have access to... Yeah, so the Schengen visa is a travel visa. So you don't want that to work, right? Because there's different visas too. But yeah, the same thing happens if you are from outside Europe. Let's say you're from the UK and you want to work in Europe. You also have to apply for a visa, go through like language tests and all that kind of stuff, right? So that you can then get accepted. All right, so talking about these visas, if we're talking about it anyway, the Din is asking, how did you get the UK visa, if you don't mind talking about it? So I don't mind talking about it. It's the standard procedure to get a UK visa, or like I guess to any visa, right, is to get a company to sponsor you. What that means is that the company has decided that you are a valuable person, they want to hire you from abroad, and then they usually, this doesn't happen all the time, but they usually work with an immigration service that will help you get onboarded into the UK in my situation, right? Or like in our situation. I had to go through a certain place to get a language test done. So I had to get tested on my English language. Yes, I had to actually sit through a test and do multiple written tests and speaking tests and all that kind of stuff, so that I get a certificate, so that I can then prove that like my English language is like adequate. But the whole process, it takes a lot of time, you know, just, and I didn't see most of it, but it was just like, oh, can we get these details? Can you send us these papers? Can you send over your bachelor degree? Because we want to see if you have that. Can you send over the language test certificate? Like all those things, like take a lot of time. But usually, in a very simplified way, you apply to a company, the company decides to hire you, they decide to sponsor you as well, they then kick up a process with the immigration service, they then, the immigration service then reaches out to you, asks you for like a bunch of documentation and like your official papers, and in our case, it was my language test, like I said. We had to give proof of cohabitation. So me and my partner were going to move there together. We had to prove that we had at least 2 years of living together. We had to be able to prove that through like bills and whatever the hell we had that we were co-signed on, right? So we both had to be signatures on that. And then they wanted to see my bachelor degree as well, because that is important. Yeah. And then, yeah, let's see. And that takes like a couple of months to go through like all the bureaucracy, right? You get your starting date. You have to sign up to like a UK government website where all your immigration papers and all those things get managed. So you're doing a lot of back and forth between that, right? And then eventually, once that is all done and all the paperwork is set, you get like a starting date, and then you have to fly, I think within a week of that starting date or something like that. Can't remember, but like the timeline was pretty tight. I think you had like, I don't know, maybe 1 to 3 weeks or something like that. That you had to be like, okay, you're approved now. Now you need to move as quickly as possible, you know? So yeah, that's like a large overview of what that means. Reverse C6 is saying apparently it's not so much a monetary issue for studios, it's just a bureaucratic nightmare. So here's the thing, here's where it gets interesting, right? Or like it gets difficult, because there are restrictions to this. So if you want to apply for a skilled worker visa in the UK, the company has to pay you a minimum salary of, God, I can't remember the barrier, but it was like 38,000 or something like that. So let me actually quickly look. So skilled worker visa UK. Yeah, so the general salary threshold is set to 41,700 a year. Or the relevant going rate for the occupation, right? So there is a difference between like the different occupations as well. They kind of have like different brackets. I think, God, let's just assume 41,700, right? Let's make it even. Let's say 41,000. You know what that means, though? If you look at the salary brackets within the games industry in the UK specifically, right? You do not get paid 41,000 unless you are like mid to senior, right? So I think mid, you can start seeing that number for sure. And in some cases, you will be seeing that number when you're a senior, right? It depends on the location and depends on the company and all those kind of things, right? But that means that because they moved this threshold up, it cuts out you as a junior being able to get into the industry now. Because there's one guarantee that I'll give you, no matter, well, maybe London. I think even London is not going to do this. There's going to be no company that is going to pay a junior 41,000. Which means that for any junior jobs in the UK, it's basically impossible to hire abroad because of these rules. So yeah. And that just changed, when was this? God, like a couple of years ago or something like that. They moved it up from like 24,000, I think, to like 41 or like 38 or whatever it was back then. So yeah. Unfortunately, that means that basically this is an incentive for the UK to say, hey, we are stop gonna hiring from abroad and we are gonna hire from internally, right? Because if you look at the ecosystem in the UK, they have a really good ecosystem when it comes to having people coming out of uni and then having a lot of studios in the UK games industry as well, right? So they could basically self-sustain their own bubble. It's basically people in the UK or outside the UK that are no longer likely to get a job in the UK. 41K for a junior, that sounds great. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. They're not going to pay that. I think the salary bracket that I know is probably going to be somewhere around 26 to 30, 33, if I would say, for like a junior working in the UK industry. Maybe not 26. I think 26 is too low, I think. Let's say 28 to like 33. That is a salary bracket, but I would assume that is going to be for a junior, right? So yeah. Which means it's going to be really difficult, you know? But the opposite thing happens as well. I think the opposite thing happens as well, where companies within Europe, I don't know what the ruling is there. But yeah, they have similar rules around this, right? So you can actually, if you start looking into like those worker visa rules, you can actually see if it's even feasible for you to get hired by a company, right? It's not exciting research, but it gives you some extra insights. Justin is saying highest salary band for junior is in London, but it's really competitive with too many hurdles. That isn't worth the hassle. Starting out anywhere outside the city is better. Oh, I totally agree. I would never move to London because thing is, like the salary might be higher in London, but also the cost of living in London is so high that I've heard from like multiple people that it's honestly pretty impossible as a junior artist to work in London, the city itself, right? So yeah. Guildford is also basically here's a rule, right? It's unfortunate that like with every gaming hub, you're gonna pay a premium because if you have tech come into a location, that means that it's gonna drive prices up, right? It's a miracle that I'm somehow still living in this city. Even traveling in London is expensive, I think. The train was like £30, even though it was like only an hour ride. Oh no, that is not London. That is like UK train travel in general. It's pretty expensive, yeah. But yeah. I also didn't really think that I was gonna be spending the intro to the stream talking about like visas. Hey, it's been a while since I attended your streams, but speaking of visa, does the EU and UK consider the game development as a good skill to have for an applying visa? Yeah. Like especially the UK recognizes like game developers as like a good skill to have, or like a shortage of people to have, right? Especially when it comes to talented people, like talented or experienced people, whatever you want to equate. 13 MJN is saying, when I got into the industry, for me, it was 4 indie studios. I managed to get into Decagon, and then I got into a AAA outsourcing company. So it took me 5 years of grinding. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like it's a thing that we sometimes underestimate, is that we think that the grind is like trying to get into the industry, but I think that's grind part 1 is done. And now grind part 2 starts, right? So yeah. Devil 100 is saying someone from Vessel Forge said that studios don't want to bother with visas that much unless it's about someone who would be taking a senior position, because apparently they have to cover costs. So it's viewed as an investment. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Like having a really good junior in your team and then having to spend a little bit more money on them is also an investment, because they bring a different kind of energy to the table, right? Because if you think about it from like a very surface level, right? Or let's imagine that we run a business. If you hire a senior, they usually know their worth. They have some kind of grit. They are less malleable. You know, they might be a little bit cynical about the industry. Like they have like a bunch of baggage that comes with them, right? And they know what they're negotiating for. When it comes to a junior though, they are just full of freaking passion. You know? They just want to get in. They'll do whatever they'll do. Like, just throw it at me and we'll make it work, right? So they bring like a different sort of energy to the table. And I think in a good development, you cannot have a team that is only senior people, because you don't have that like push from the juniors to like do more and be really energetic and be really, they bring a certain like chaotic, like really good energy to the table, right? Where the opposite happens with a senior, right? So they both balance each other out to make for like a really well-rounded team. Hello, Tadine. Sorry, I think I missed a couple of questions here because we've got good discussions going on. So yeah, if I missed your question, try to answer it again. As a mid-environment artist with a ship title, do you reckon UK studios will bother to sponsor me? There's only one way to find out, and that's to try, right? Because here's the thing. There's a lot of things that go into that question, right? It's your current portfolio. It's what titles you worked on. It's how you sell yourself. It's how you negotiate. It's the pay recommendations or like the pay requirements that you're asking for. There's a lot of stuff going on there, right? So the only way to know that question or the answer to that question is to try. There's definitely a possibility though. I'm so grateful it takes me like 45 minutes to get to Stafford by train. I'm happy to commute. Yeah, there's something that's nice about commuting though. Like I do like having the separation between like going from work, commuting, clearing the brain, and then coming home and then doing something else, right? I do like that. That's something that I actually quite miss, like working from home all the time, not having that commute, not having that detachment. Something that I do miss. I'll just buy a tent and camp outside of Rockstar North. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna help your case. But hey, travel in Ireland is cheap. 1 hour of bus ride is like two and a half euros. Yeah. Like I think, yeah, every country has like its own benefits, right? I think in Germany you can get like the Germany ticket. You cannot use intercity trains with that ticket, but you can use unlimited whatever else you want, and it costs you like 50 euros a month. That's it. You're sorted. But yeah. Let's see. Did I miss any other questions? I don't think so. The last question, or like the current last question is, any tips on finding freelance work without going on Fiverr or something? So that is a good question, but I genuinely don't know. I think my way that I would go about getting freelance work, because the reason why I don't know is because I don't freelance, right? Technically currently I freelance, but that is because I'm freelancing for the company that I literally worked for like last year, right? So that's different. That's not looking for like new clients. I think what I would do is I would probably go and approach it in like a very old school way. That means have a good portfolio, have a really nice looking resume, and then just start sending out like applications to like a lot of companies. So what I would do is I would basically like go through a list, start with the bigger companies because they're least likely, you know, but it's more like, hey, look, I'm available, you know, if you need anyone, who knows. So I would like the bigger companies, but I think you're going to have more success with smaller companies, which means that you might have to go out and, well, first of all, be active on social media. Make sure that you share your work, let them know that you're available, do all that signaling, right? Because you want to have some sort of presence on social media platforms so that they can see that you're doing that. And you'll have to do that for the long run, right? So you have to always keep this up. You cannot let that die down because then it takes a lot of effort to like build it back up again. At least that's my take on that. And then when it comes to like places to look, probably where would I look? Reddit? There's probably gonna be indie game subreddits of people just like looking for jobs or freelancers or something like that. Potentially. ArtStation is probably still decent. What is Lily saying on this? So applying for freelance gigs, some companies look for freelancers. I also had 2 clients reach out to me because my ArtStation said freelancer. They posted lots of art, networking, etc. Yeah. What if I wanted to cater more towards individuals or indie studios? If I wanted to work on something as a side job? I mean, the same thing still happens there, right? Like same sort of principle. You just have to, basically in general, you have to find the places where the people that you want to cater to exist and live, and then you have to target them there. That's basically what it comes down to, right? In a very simplified manner, you have to find the spaces where they are most active and then see how you can integrate with that. There are some Discord servers who post gigs. Yeah. God, I used to be in a couple of them, like indie games. God, I sometimes what I'll see is I'll see LinkedIn posts that literally just have like Discord servers like on a spreadsheet somewhere, you know? Those are like sometimes really interesting to look into. So you can probably find some if you just look for like very generic terms on like LinkedIn. For example, indie games now hiring or something like that, you know, and see what kind of posts come up and do some digging and see what people post about that and just follow them. But yeah, if you have some recommendations, Lily, would be happy to hear. I think I've sent over 150 companies in the last year. I'm having a hard time, man. That's the thing. That's a grind. You have to listen to the signals that the industry is sending you. If the signal is dead silence, then it usually means that you need to level up your work, right? Make it more applicable, make it more industry appropriate, and just keep sending out stuff, you know? A lot of Discord offers seem very low though. Like someone wanted the game ready truck model, rigged and animated for like 70 USD or something. You'll have to go through that. That is the main reason why I never really had the ambition to become a freelancer. Because you will have to do a lot of filtering yourself. So for me, that's where I put like all my effort into like really going into the industry. Oh, I'm actually surprised that you can send a link, Lily. It's not clickable. Hold on, Lily, give me a sec. Where is it? Okay, can you try posting it again? My portfolio is pretty good if I compare it with other artists. Which other artists are you talking about? Are those people inside the industry? And your old teachers also say my portfolio is very good. I wouldn't trust old teachers. I mean, I get that they were trying to help, right? And some might actually be right, but those are not the people that are currently in the industry looking at the people that send them portfolios, right? You want to get with any data ever, you want to get it from the source, right? So yeah, ask industry professionals, right? Like ask people working for different companies from like all types of seniorities and ask them for feedback, right? This is actually something that you can do, right? You can just go on LinkedIn and then ask people like, hey, if you have 5 minutes, could you have a look at like my portfolio? I'm trying to improve my work. What else could I do, right? That is probably the way to go about it. Link is too long? No. Also, people in the industry say my portfolio is fine. What do you think you can do better? Let's try that for a question then. Or what do you think you could do better? And the second question is, what do you think is holding you back from getting a job then? In the meantime, let's see. So Devil is asking, how would you reach out to professionals? Just reach out to ArtStation or Discord? Probably not Discord. I would keep it as professional as possible. I would do LinkedIn. Honestly, ArtStation is a portfolio website. I honestly don't think that a lot of industry professionals actually look at ArtStation. I don't look at ArtStation. Like the only reason why I have ArtStation open is because I have to do portfolio reviews. For the rest of it, I don't look at ArtStation at all. Like I don't open it, I don't have it on a new tab or anything like that. I just don't care about it. Because nothing really is happening there for me, right? Like for me, social engagement comes from like a LinkedIn or something like that, right? So I would reach out to them there and honestly keep it short, keep it professional. Say like, hey X, big fan of your work. You've always been an inspiration to me. I was wondering if you can lend me like 5 minutes to have a look at my portfolio and tell me how I can improve. That's it. I'm thinking about finding some gigs and to start growing by myself. If the industry will not come to me, I will come to her. Yeah, I mean, but that is definitely a choice that a lot of people are taking now, right? Like a lot of people self-starting, right? I honestly don't know what I can do better. My portfolio is fine. I did my internship at Larian and got a vacation job there. I get a lot of likes and comments about people who work in the industry. Yeah, but here's the thing, right? Like, you are not going to get people saying what you need to improve on ArtStation. That is thing number one, right? You're not going to get feedback on a platform that is there to celebrate the art that you just shared, right? So that's not going to be a good indication on whether you are ready, right? And sure, like the internship at Larian definitely helped, right? And now that I kind of know who I'm talking about, it gives me like a better idea. I think we're going to be looking at your portfolio in a couple of weeks, I think, right? But you always, here's a weird thing, right? Like people that just say like, hey, look, your portfolio is good. Just keep doing what you're doing. That is honestly as bad as not giving you any feedback at all, right? I would look for maybe more professional people in the industry or more knowledgeable people. Maybe not knowledgeable. I mean, I don't want to bash them too hard, right? But like sometimes it's just like a time restriction, where people are just like, hey, your work looks awesome, just keep doing what you're doing. And sometimes that works, but I don't feel that's really helpful in most cases. Because yeah, I mean, let's say, and this is also definitely what we're going to be talking about later today, right? Is that the industry is in a difficult position, right? So even if you do everything right, the chances that you're going to get a position are still like really low. And this is where we have to go and we need to dig a little bit deeper and then ask about, where do you live? What are the opportunities there? What freedom of mobility do you have? What sort of sacrifices are you willing to take? Like all those things, right? Because yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things there, but I don't think it's going to be, there's not going to be a great conversation about that specifically because it's demanding more knowledge about your personal self, right? Which we can definitely do during portfolio reviews, but and here's another thing that I was thinking, right? So let's say you compare yourself to other juniors and you think that you're good, right? You're good enough to be like among the top in the juniors. Then you just have to raise the bar, right? Like what do mids or seniors do that you're not doing? And how can you integrate that then in your portfolio, right? Devil100 is saying, I'm trying to assemble my portfolio. I got 4 models I did as client work, but I plan to upload it and maybe one post if I post it there since the models are mostly simple and don't reflect my current skills. I'm thinking of raising the bar, like you said. You just have to, right? Like if you realize that this is your current skill set and you're not really getting any opportunities, that means that you need to push it up, keep pushing it up until you get that opportunity. And then you literally have to sit down with yourself and look at like all the skills, try to break them out as separate things. And for example, I think my modeling is good, but my texturing sucks. Okay, I'm gonna have a look at how I can increase my texturing, right? And what am I missing? And really do a deep dive on that one thing. Okay, now that skill is better. What is the next skill? And just keep doing that, and then try to do those mini things until you are like really confident that like overall all your skills have gone up to the next level, and then make a killer environment out of that, right? And just make the best thing that you have made and put that on your portfolio. Because I mean, here's the thing, it's not easy. It's not easy to get into the industry, especially now, right? So you just have to, do what you can until you get that job, right? I mean, it's a difficult recommendation, but Galazar said it as well, right? If the industry doesn't come to you, maybe you have to go to the industry, right? As in, maybe you have to start something yourself. Again, that is not a recommendation that I give to anyone. But yeah, sometimes that might be like the only option that there is, really, right? And for a lot of people, that's going to be different things, right? For me, that was like starting Beyond Extend, right? That's my way of doing that. It could also be freelance, it could be something else, but yeah. Sorry, rambling a little bit. Eden is coming in. Hello, Eden. Hey guys, a little late, but I saw in the chat you were talking about the CDPR internships. Yeah, mostly from like a perspective of, well, first of all, visa recommendations, right? That you have to have a visa to get there, and also the pay that they have for that position too. There was a recruiter of Envar at an event hosting a talk about entering the industry, and she said you should DM recruiters, but I don't know. I don't know now to approach that either. I mean, that's not a bad thing to do, honestly. Recruiters are literally there to get you a job, right? So here's the thing that I would say. I think in the beginning, if you want to get a job in the industry, right, you start out on the same level as everyone else. You just go through LinkedIn, you go through like your job postings and all that kind of stuff, right? You do the same thing as everyone else is doing. However, you cannot keep doing that and keep expecting a different result than everyone else is doing, right? So at a certain point, whether that is driven by motivation or sometimes even desperation, you then have to do bolder steps, right? And I tell this story a lot, you know, like when I was looking for a job, I would do the same thing, right? Like I would go on job posting sites and I would just look at like different company websites and I would apply there. If I got like the majority of them done, what I would do is like, okay, what else can I do, right? Like what other things can I try? I started reaching out to recruiters, multiple recruitment companies in the UK specifically. I reached out to them, got in contact, set up an account, like all that kind of stuff. And they helped me. They sent me like some recommendations, you know? And then it's like, okay, so that's in the works. That seems like it's not going to be an immediate thing, but it's gonna grow over time, you know? And I don't want to say that I had success from it, but there were some interesting opportunities that kind of came from it. They just never materialized into something. So there is an opportunity there. Then the third step that I did was like, okay, so that's like long-term, like mid to long-term. So I'm not going to touch that for a while. What can I do to increase my immediate effects here, right? Then I just started looking at, okay, this company, can I reach out to people inside that company directly, right? As in like, hey, I've just sent an application. I was wondering if you could give me like any tips to prepare better to get into the industry. Or maybe it could be something where they are junior themselves and maybe you could ask them like, hey, I just applied at this company. I just saw that you recently joined them too. I'm really curious to hear how you've did that and maybe you could give me some tips, you know? And a lot of those messages are not going to work out. I think that's a guarantee that I make, right? But you're trying to bank on the ones that do, right? So you just have to go out and get that volume in, because sometimes what's going to happen is, I've had this happen like multiple times where you will reach out to a certain person and then they open up about the company and they're like, oh, well, we actually have people in the pipeline for that, so that's not going to happen. But in like 3 months, we will have an open position for that again. So I'll keep you in mind, right? And then it's up to you to be like, okay, let me write that down. 3 months from now, I'm going to reach out to this person again. Set like, I don't know, a notification in your calendar or something like that, you know? Yeah. And that's the sort of stuff you need to do, right? Like, try fight your way into the industry like tooth and nail sometimes, you know? Because if you're just doing what everyone else is doing, I think the chances of getting in are somewhat slim. Sometimes you just have to like freaking try everything you can, you know? Try every way that you can. But I just remembered there was a question about like artists before. Where was it? It was all the way in the beginning. Just reminded me. Let me have a quick look here because there's some interesting stuff there too. Oh, Umbrella was asking, how many artists have you done to get a job and what did you make? Yeah, I think I've done like 5 different artists. Most of them were like multiple week artists. So I think one of them was 2 weeks. Well, no, I think 2 of them were 2 weeks. One of them was 1 week. No, I think all the other ones were 1 week. I do have to say, I never passed any of them. I never did. I never passed any of them. Whether it was because one of them was in Unity, I suck at Unity. One of them was making a prop, I'm not a prop artist. The other one had to do with like level design. So it was for a game called Steep, I think. And I had to make like a mountaintop village. And I had to showcase that I could make the building in a modular way. And then also do the level design a little bit as well. Which I had no clue what level design was at that point. So I crashed out on that one. I did an art test for Ubisoft Massive, like, oh my god, like, I think I talked about this before, like 9 years ago or something like that. I failed at that one because, again, I just didn't know what level design and like level art and all that kind of stuff was. So I think I just misinterpreted like what they wanted from me. What was the other one? One from... I literally did so many artists for Ubisoft because that was my goal. I think in the same week or in the same month, I did 3 artists, I think. So I did one for Ubisoft Bordeaux. I did one for Ubisoft Annecy. I can't remember what that was. Oh, I think Annecy was the ski one. Ubisoft Bordeaux was a prop one. Sucked at them both. And then I did another artist for like another company that I then just turned down or something like that because I didn't want to do that anyway. Yeah. So yeah, a whole variety of things, you know? But sometimes it was a good experience. It was a good experience in the sense of I realized that there was so much that I didn't know back then. I think that was the most interesting thing that I found out. That, for example, like having to make like a hillside ski resort and then keeping level design and all that kind of stuff in mind, I was just winging it. I didn't know what level design was, you know? So yeah, there were some interesting cases where I was like, okay, that sucked. I know that I'm not going to get it. Let me read into level design and let me talk to some people to figure out what level design is, you know? Bonus features are hard to get. Sadly, my application got rejected this morning. A little gutted since I'm assuming they won't provide feedback at all. Yeah, I think for the volume that they're getting, I don't think you're going to get any feedback. Which is interesting. I'm still torn if you even should get any feedback. Which is, yeah, interesting. I've not made up my mind on that yet. Because I can see pros and cons. Because, for example, my con with it is that I see a lot of people over-indexing on the feedback. So for example, with the artist that I just was talking about, right? If the feedback was, hey, your level design sucked. I mean, that's horrible feedback, but let's just assume that that is, right? Then I would be spending a ton of time learning about level design and become a level designer, but that was not the point. You know, I don't want to become a level designer. Because sometimes you do an art test and you realize that the job that it was trying to train you for, you actually didn't want. And I think that's a fair outcome. Sometimes you just like apply for the job and then you realize that, oh, this job is not for me. What the hell? Okay, sure, I did this test for a week, but now I realize that I don't actually want that job. And that's also a fair outcome. It is just, I know that as a junior especially, or like as a person trying to get into the industry, it is really difficult to try and separate from what you can do and should do. So yeah. Anyway, Devil is saying, would you advise to enter competitions as a way to push your skills? Yes. Oh my god, yes. Whenever there was like an ArtStation competition, I would participate in every one of them. And some of them sucked. Some of them were okay. I got an honorable mention for one of them, right? I think I'm pretty proud of that. The other one just like sucked because it was way overscoped. Still proud of the end result, you know, because I learned so much. But yeah, oh my god, competitions are so good. A pressure cooker, you know? A pressure cooker. I love it. There's honestly no better way to get like stuff done for your portfolio in a quick manner than being put in like a pressure cooker situation. So you could even do this with your friends, right? It doesn't have to be like this public thing. You could talk to your environment artist friends and say like, hey, look, we're gonna come up with a theme, the same thing that we do with the team challenges, right? But just strip away the team aspect, make it super simple, and everyone just makes their own like diorama in like, let's say 4 weeks, and you have to send each other like daily updates or something like that, right? Because that creates so much accountability between everyone. If you have a good group of like really motivated people, that is all you need to kind of light the passion under your ass, you know? The Dean is asking, do you think it's hard for experienced contractors to find their next contract? Yeah. Yeah, I think I do. I think it's hard for anyone right now. Sure, experienced contractors might have it somewhat easier because they are literally experienced, right? But if the industry doesn't need people, then it doesn't need people, right? No matter how good you are. So yeah, I will let you know. I will let you know about my experience, depending on what I'm gonna do, because the next month is gonna be very, very stressful. Well, like not stressful, but like there's a lot of tinkering that I'll have to do about the next steps for my own career. So yeah. 13MJ is saying, I know myself and many of my friends working in CD Projekt Red and other known companies are open to chat on LinkedIn and ArtStation. So sometimes it's worth giving it a shot and writing them directly. Yeah, 100%. It's always worth it writing them directly. Always. Because here's the beautiful thing, right? So, and I'm going to condense the story, but I used to write a blog. I am still featured as like the main spokesman of like the ArtStation blog. If you go and like you look at the blog section, my face is still there. But I use the blog in a way to reach out to other artists. Not in the way that you think about it, but I would feature an artist as my inspiration on like a weekly basis, right? That is cool by itself, but I would also reach out to them personally. And I would generally just say to them like, hey, thank you for being such an inspiration. I really appreciate like all the art that you've put out there and like all the interesting stuff that you keep putting out there, right? I want to give back and feature you on my little blog that I'm doing. If that's okay with you, if not, let me know and I'll remove it, right? That was usually the message. And there are so many little seeds from those conversations that came out of it, where other people said like, oh dude, that's awesome. Oh, let me introduce you to this person that also makes like a bunch of cool art and let's hop into a call. And like, not with everyone, right? But there are those moments where, yeah, that happens. Marius is asking, do you suggest aiming for a specific studio's quality bar you want to work for, or aim for general skill and quality? This is generally a good question, right? So I still sort of struggle with it. I think the way that you frame your question is actually pretty good. A specific studio quality bar is good. What I wouldn't aim for is try to replicate the workflow or the specific things that they're doing. The quality bar for a studio is good, but I wouldn't try to replicate, like, let's say, the workflow specifically. But here's the thing, right? Like, that's why I love your question, because the quality bar is a good marker for, like, let's say, hey, that's where my quality needs to be. Because if you then start focusing on, oh, for example, let's go for something like God of War, right? Like so Sony Santa Monica. If you want to work for them, you would then need to be like really good at sculpting and spend a whole bunch of time sculpting, right? If you like sculpting, that's good. But let's say, I don't know, we're living in a hypothetical situation, right? Let's say that like sculpting doesn't exist. You now spend like a whole bunch of time like investing into a skill that is no longer used by the industry, right? The thing that I'm trying to drive home with that is that, for example, you have the same thing. This is like 5 to 10 years ago already. You had a lot of people that were trying to get into Blizzard with like hand painted stuff, right? And I think that is such a niche sliver of the industry that if that is really what you want to do, you have to just be the best of the best. Otherwise, you're not going to get a job. That's it, right? So I would say focus on the general quality bar, like you mentioned, and then see what the common industry trends are and what the workflows are to kind of get you there. It won't work 100% of the time, but even like 20 to 30% of the times that someone will reply is fair to try, honestly. Yeah, 100%. 100% agree. I'm going to Digital Dragons in a couple of weeks, hoping to catch the CDBR recruiters for a chat at least. Hopefully set me in the right direction. Or Bloober team, that would be dope too. Dude, anyone, if you go to like an event like this, try to literally cram your calendar as full as you can. Like literally run from conversation to conversation. But yeah, have fun. Harry was saying, I recently saw a video on the 100-hour like Naughty Dog artist. Yeah. I have not watched it yet, but I need to give it a watch. It'll be a great time for sure. Beauty's asking, I'm curious, how do you move from one studio to another? Do you usually wait until the game is finished? Usually that's the way to do it, yeah. But sometimes there's other moments, right? Like sometimes people just leave in the middle of development because for whatever reason they might leave, right? I think what I did, so when I moved from Frontier Developments, we just wrapped up working on Jurassic World Evolution. And I was itching to see what else was out there, right? So we started working on Planet Zoo, and I think I was also doing like foliage back then, and foliage and outdoors management or something like that. And I was like, I don't want to keep doing this necessarily, right? Important thing there, we never had a conversation about this internally. This is something that I really suck at, is that I feel something and I do the moves and then I talk about it later with like my manager, right? It's not a great habit, but anyway. So from Frontier Developments, we then started the production on Planet Zoo. I was like, yeah, I mean, this is more of the same, right? Like I'm pretty good at this, but I want to challenge myself and I want to see what else is out there. So I started like busting my ass off and just like started working on portfolio projects, doing multiple ArtStation challenges like back to back, all that kind of stuff to get my portfolio up there. I started participating in like a lot of basically anything that I could see. I participated in a challenge from NVIDIA as well, won a graphics card. I started writing like articles for 3D artist magazines. I started writing a blog. I was basically doing this combination of I just want to get my name out there, right? And then around that time, or like as I was doing that over time, I got like a small following. And then because of that, I think when I started posting that, hey, I'm looking to leave, right? Like these are the skills that I bring to the table. I'm available for hire. That's where I then got the opportunity to then go to Ubisoft Berlin and be a part of like a new studio, which, oh my God, yes. I mean, I'm really shortening it, right? Because remember when I talked about like all those art tests that I did and all those interviews with like multiple companies? I traveled like to a lot of places to like in-person interviews, and there was so much chaos there that I just have to condense to like this short story. But yeah, because oh my God, yeah, I even forgot about this. I would travel to other locations for like different interviews in the weekend, or like, I don't know, take a day off of work, do an interview, and then come back and then like start working on the ArtStation stuff again. And it's just, oh my god, it was so chaotic. Doing medieval scene today? Nope. Nope. I'm probably not gonna work on that. Personally, I quit 2 times because I felt like I wasn't growing as an artist and got kicked out before the game was released because they didn't need prop artists no more. Yeah, that's unfortunate, dude. That's unfortunate. Insane grind does not sound easy at all, even back then. No, this is what I'm saying, right? Like, sure, the industry might have been easier around like COVID times, right? Because it was really easy to get a job back then. Me and a friend of mine, we were actually looking at like our inbox, right? And I still have like most of my emails from like job opportunities, right? The bulk of them are in those like in that 3-year window, right? Because everyone was looking to gather as much talent as they could, right? For the boom to happen. And then it just dried up. Like, I think I can't even remember like the last job notification that I got in my inbox, you know? And I used to get them like relatively frequently, right? Like, not an offer, right? But like, hey, we're looking for senior environment artists. Are you looking? That kind of stuff. It's crazy for everyone, you know? But that's what I mean, right? Like, that grind, if you want to get into the industry, you'll have to do it. And that is also, to your point, Kowalinsky, about that Naughty Dog artist. Isn't it bad that you spend 100 hours or more on an artist? Do you want to work for Naughty Dog? Because if the answer is yes, you're going to have to do the artist, right? That's the thing. It might not be great. It might not be like a great testing mechanism, because some companies use this as like a barrier to entry, right? Which I don't necessarily agree with, but it does put everyone sort of on like equal playing field, right? Because you know that you're going to be surrounded by a lot of people that did the same test as you. But yeah. Because here's the thing, like, I don't necessarily, and we talked about this like last week, I think, extensively, right? So I'm not going to go into that again. But there is a difference between what I would prefer the industry to do and what the industry sometimes requires you to do if you want to get the job, right? Because they hold the cards. And if you want to get access to that book of cards, you will need to play the game, right? But you won't be working 12 hours per day when you get a job at Naughty Dog. Oh, yeah, about that. Look at the news, right? Type in Naughty Dog crunch and you're gonna see some stuff. It's not consistent, sure, I get your point, right? But it is definitely there. Crunch is definitely still a thing for certain companies. CDPR still does it, right? I mean, I don't know if they still do, so I don't wanna misquote them on that, because they have said multiple times we are not gonna crunch, and then they have to revert what they said because they are literally crunching at that point. So yeah. And this is the thing, right? Like, this is why I'm talking about like COVID. Like, during that time, we had the power. Like, the individual applying for a company had the power. What we are in now is the company has all the power. Because, for example, if you have a stable job, right? Well, stable job, yeah. That's also another joke. Let's say you're currently on a contract, right? And let's say you work for a year for a certain company. And then they know, so they might want to give you a permanent position, but they might not want to, right? You don't know. That's a massive like question mark. What are you gonna do as a person in this industry, right? It's your choice what you want to do with that information, right? Do you then bust your ass off to prove that you can stay at that company and then do the extra mile and like hopefully get that permanent position? That is one option, right? You could also start looking externally and like try to hedge your bets and then hopefully get a job elsewhere. But the whole industry is going through the same thing. So the likeliness of you getting a job somewhere else is highly unlikely. So that's the thing. Usually you have like a choice, right? But in more recent times, it doesn't feel like you have a choice. It feels like you need to do one thing. And that's what a lot of people find themselves in the games industry, right? And that's the thing. It's not that I want it to be. It's not that I want it to be it that way, right? I would rather be that we can rely on a company to provide us a stable job and then we can retire like happily and all that kind of stuff. But that is not the current reality, right? Because a lot of people, even people with experience that I've worked with personally, they are also looking for a job too. So you'll have to be, you'll have to be scrappy, and you'll have to sometimes do the things that you don't want to do or don't make sense, right? Like for example, like a 100-hour art test. If that is the thing that they say you to do, and then you say no, then it's like, okay, sure, but these like other 100 people, they're willing to do it. So, and that's usually what the dynamic comes down to, right? It is, you can have a choice and you can still take that choice, but then you also have to deal with the consequences of that choice, right? That's exactly my current situation. I signed a permanent contract recently and get to work fully remotely. So I feel literally blessed. Yeah, congratulations on landing that. That's awesome. But yeah, even this, right? And this kind of hints at like a broader spectrum. And I was listening to like a bunch of podcasts talking about like the future of work and all that kind of stuff too. But it's really, there's a lot of dynamics going on there, right? And it's like a very broad topic to unpack. Because it's interesting that we are, from our parents, in our parents' generation, like a company loyalty was still a thing, right? I don't think that's necessarily still a thing for us, but it depends on how we deal with that. And especially if we think then about the role of a permanent contract, right? Even if you have a permanent contract in this industry, which I have had multiple times, right? There's still, especially now, there's still a sense that doesn't really mean anything, you know? And that's a thing that's really scary. And we talked about this a lot, right? Where before, indie companies, they were the risky companies, right? So, oh my God, you're not going to go work for an indie company because you don't know what's going to happen. So you want a stable job, you're going to go in AAA, right? Makes sense. That is done. That's like, that doesn't exist anymore, not in the current situation. So what do you do with that, right? Like what do you do with that information where stability doesn't exist in the space anymore? And it's not for the lack of trying. Like there's genuine people that want to provide stability for their team and their studio and all that kind of stuff too, right? But yeah, it's difficult. Let me have a quick look here. All right. It is about that time though. Let's dive into some portfolio reviews, right? Because we've been rambling for like an hour and a half already. I mean, we've had some good discussions, to be honest. I like the discussion that we have. So thank you all so much for those good questions. In the meantime, let me switch on over. Let's have a look at our portfolios here. So switching it up. If you want to get your portfolio reviewed yourself, feel free to become a member of our community. Anyone that becomes a member gets to put their put their name in the queue, and then we can have a look at your work. Hey, Danny. Oh my God, it's been a while since I saw you here. Hope you're doing well. Lovely to see you. Okay, we are going to start out with the first portfolio here. I'm gonna grade them on 4 different categories, right? Like I tried to keep this consistent: hireability, presentation, artistry, and techniques, right? So we're gonna come back at the end and we're gonna see how this scores up. First, we are gonna start with Nicoletta. Oh, go away. Okay. Sorry, not you, Nicoletta. It's literally this stupid pop-up that came up. Okay, cool. Let's have a look. So, initial impressions. There's a lot of different stuff happening here. But before we do that, let's actually look at who you are and how you present yourself, right? So, a 3D environment artist with 10 years of experience building levels with visual storytelling and modeling props for the games industry. What? 10 years. Awesome. Lovely to see that. Let me have a look at your other social links. Hey, color-coded insignia. Good to see you back. So we have Sketchfab. Cool. And then we have cool. Okay, a decent amount of following actually, which is pretty good. And let me see. So 3D environment artist. I mean, misspelled, but that's like a small thing. I might misspell like a ton of stuff myself as well. So let's see. So your most recent experience is working as a 3D environment artist for this company that does like truck driving simulators, which is cool. And then you've done some UI UX. So yeah, you transitioned from UI UX. Okay, so not necessarily 10 years that I'm seeing here, right? Like if we dive a little bit deeper, it seems like you're on like 7 years. I'm curious what this company does and... Oh, okay. They're doing some interesting stuff. Oh, this is present as well. So this is not even 7 years. This is 3 years, right? Sorry, we're already being like super nitpicky. But sometimes this is what I'll look at, right? It's like, okay, I have this amount of experience. Let me see if we can verify that a little bit, right? Because I'm not seeing 3D environment artist. I'm not seeing 3D environment artist as a full-time position for 10 years. What I'm seeing is you have experience doing multiple different things within games for the past 10 years, but it's all over the place, right? So yeah, so it's kind of like a little bit misleading from the get-go. So let's see. Interesting. So I wonder why you still need this. I know that Behance is more for like UI, UX, and like motion design and like all those other things, right? So this feels like it's still like a remainder of like your, it's gonna sound weird, like your older self, you know? This is your past self portfolio. So I think honestly, like you don't need to Behance anymore and just like make everything on like ArtStation, right? Well, let's see. What's the About page about? You've got 2 published projects. This is also interesting, right? Like, I wonder if you can share... and I wonder if I got, like, a message about this. Because I think you did message me about it. Oh, yeah, you did message me about it, that there were certain things that you couldn't show off yet, right? Yeah, that is a thing that is always annoying about this industry, right? So unfortunately, that's going to limit what you can show off. But even just having like the productions here could already help a lot, right? So even in the other company that you work for, having the production here would also help. Cool. First impressions here. I've already said there's like a bunch of stuff here that doesn't feel like it belongs on the portfolio. Just honestly, from a straight up. Oh, sorry. Let me make sure that everything is visible here. Just from a straight up portfolio presentation type of perspective, right? Like these thumbnails here. First of all, feel weird and they don't feel professional. And then, yeah, showcasing this is probably not worth it, honestly. And then the games that you played, this is not something that I would put on your portfolio. Your portfolio is literally just all about how can I show my skills off in the best possible way, right? So don't make it too personal. Don't talk about like the games that you played. If you wanna maybe spice up your CV, right? Like maybe your favorite games, like a top 3 of your favorite games could be interesting to talk about. That could be like a personal touch to your CV, right? But I wouldn't have it as like a full thing that you just dedicate like an artwork for on your portfolio, right? It all comes down to focusing on the stuff that you want to show off, right? ZBrush studies. I mean, I could see somewhat the value here if there was more of it potentially, right? And then just make the thumbnail, make it more interesting to look at. Game jams. I would, when it comes to this, if you're doing a game jam, I think they're great, right? Like game jams and like doing anything when it comes to like game creation is freaking awesome. But just set it up as like an individual thumbnail. Like one of these, right? Like one of these and just make it like the final render of the game and then just like write the name of the game like below it or something like that, right? Keep it clean, call it like game jam and then like the title or like the logo of the game underneath it. So that I can immediately from the thumbnail, I can see, oh, this is interesting. It's a game jam. Okay, let me click on it and explore it, right? Because we want to also set the correct expectations of the person that is looking at our portfolio to be aware of, oh, this is what I'm looking at currently, right? So again, think about the presentation of the way that you're doing these things. And then we've got UI, UX. 3D modeling, UV texturing, motion design. Yeah, this is, I think this becomes a question of like, okay, this stuff is really interesting, but I would put that in a separate category and probably have potentially less of it. Maybe just make it into, this is my UI UX work, and then just really snip it out like your top stuff, right? Make it the most impressive stuff that you have, rather than a bunch of stuff that is relatively similar in what you're doing, the actual function, right? I still think that it is like pretty impressive, right? Pretty impressive to look at. But it's almost like your portfolio is trying to be a showcase for the jobs that you want, not the jobs that you've had. That's the difference with your portfolio, right? So if, let's say, I see a lot of UI UX work on your portfolio, then I'm like, okay, but like, is that still something that you want to do, right? You want to focus on the study you want to do in the future. We're just going to skip through like most of the UI UX stuff, right? And just seeing what we can lean from it. Again, this is like UI UX stuff, which is interesting for UI UX purposes, but this is not really relevant if you want to have your next job in environment art, right? This is also UI UX concept again. We're going to skip this. Your CV, which actually, this is an interesting workaround where because ArtStation limits you having the ability to upload a CV as a PDF, right? But I don't think it's that bad to just have it as like an image. The only thing that's annoying about it is that the PDF is like readable, like machine readable, right? So if they then like plug it in and make it automatically readable, that's handier with like PDFs compared to JPEGs. But yeah, I'm not opposed to it. But let's have a look here. Oh, yeah, we didn't even do this, by the way. So you want to work at a big AAA studio, right? This is what you're highlighting here as well. That means that your portfolio needs to be niche, it needs to be targeted, and it needs to be from quality, right? So that means that anything that doesn't have to do with this goal, the goal of working in a big game studio as a 3D environment artist, is not relevant. Right? So think about it that way. All the UI UX work that you've done is cool, but most of it is just irrelevant to the work that you want to do, right? I would try to show off, try to show it off in a more interesting way that is relevant to the work that you want to be doing, right? Cool, let's have a look at the CV. So 3D environment artist with 10 years of experience and then 2 released games. Again, yeah, it's probably a naming thing, right? Because you do have 10 years of experience, but not as a 3D environment artist. I wonder. Yeah, because this is better than the previous description. But I think you need to be careful in the way that you word things, right? Because the way that I'm reading this now is that you're telling me that you have 10 years experience as a 3D environment artist working in games, which is not necessarily true, right? You've done like game adjacent things and you're trying to transition into like the big AAA stuff, right? Let's have a look here. So skills, 3D modeling, 3ds Max, 11 years of experience, Blender, 2 years of experience. I think this is actually good in terms of like breaking it down by like years of using something, which is pretty good. Now, the thing here is always important is that I am going to be looking at how you display these skills, right? Because that's where the power really comes from. You can tell me one thing, but if you then don't visualize it on the opposite side of the spectrum, then it doesn't matter. LOD generation, detail, trim, atlas, and tune. Cool. Work experience. Modeling 3D car models and UI assets for interactive infotainment or to engine handle. Yeah, this is an interesting one. Because I mean, I keep scrutinizing this, but if you then translate it to more towards the 3D modeling rather than the UI UX, I think that's going to be more relevant for your portfolio in general. Education, cool. Okay. Right. Also, if you do this, right, I would only have your CV here and just leave out like anything else. This other stuff, I don't even know what this is. What is this? UI UX CV, like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. This is not important. Remove it, right? Again, your ArtStation portfolio is all you need. So just make it really specific. Yeah, because this is totally irrelevant to the stuff that you want to do, right? So the only thing that is really relevant here is just having the CV. And then the rest of it, what is all this? Yeah, again, I think the CV is good, and then the rest of it just feels like fluff or just presenting the same information in a different way, which is why are we doing that, right? You're just doubling up and you're making it like really confusing. rather than just saying like, hey, look, here's my CV. Here's all you need to know. And you don't need to look at anything else, right? That's what a CV is for. Cool. Whip. Oh no. Building the modules, LODs, and collisions. Creating the character. I thought so. Using AI tools. Okay. I would honestly, on an environment artist portfolio, I would be happy to see no character art at all. And yeah, be really clear about that, right? Because I think honestly, like if you look at the character art, it just doesn't look great, right? When it comes to the environments, I think the recommendation that I have, let me actually have a look. Because okay, before I say anything more about that, let me actually have a look at the other stuff. Because I don't want to make up my mind immediately. The Google Maps pin is still on there? Oh my god. You can get some like open source data for this, right? God, what is that? There's a bunch of different programs that you can use to just literally sample the landscape somewhere, and you can get like the height map information from that place. So use that instead and like build something 3D around it, right? Okay, let's keep cruising. Little diorama. Okay, I like what's happening here actually. It's a pretty cute little diorama. Abdu is saying BL-OSM. Thank you for sharing that. That's like to capture real time, or like not real time, but like actual landscape data, right? That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. So I've been working for Spherasoft for over a year. Oh, nice. Like one of my former colleagues is a lead at Spherasoft. But I mean, it's such a big company, I think, that yeah, probably don't even know each other. The industry is so big. Elena is coming in. Is it good to have some Game Jam stuff on your ArtStation, or just have a good-looking itch.io page and a personal website and put it on there? I would not do a personal website, just because usually when you do a personal website, that means that you have to be good at designing a website, which we aren't, you know? Unless you spend a whole bunch of time in like making a good-looking website. I mean, it is easier than ever to make a good-looking one, but it's still taking time away from actually the stuff that you want to do, right? An itch.io page could be good, or even if you just have, like, if you treat a game jam as like your normal work, right? As in, you just have the final image or maybe a little bit of a playthrough, you know, as the first thing, and then you show what you've done. That's all, you know. I think for a game jam specifically, what I'm always interested in looking at is not necessarily the outcome of the work, but how consistent it feels, and it gives me like an insight on how the team has worked together, right? With you being a part of that. So that's more the interesting thing. It's more that a game jam kind of leans towards you expressing your creativity in a team setting and then working within a deadline, right? That's more what I'm interested in than you're like, oh my god, this needs to look as good as the rest of the stuff in your portfolio. Can you give advice for someone who's just started building his portfolio? Yeah, all the stuff that I'm saying now. It's all advice. And if you want to have more advice, I've done more than 10 of these streams already. Go watch all of them. It's all in there. Cool, so we have this arch. Oh, and then you have like 3 polygon versions? This is interesting. I'm more curious about like what do you think the main difference is between like 8,000 and 9,000 polygons? Because if we're talking about like that amount of reduction, I'm not really expecting you to see like any big visual change, right? Like 19,000 to like 8,000, then we're talking about a big reduction, right? So I'm then curious, like, where did you decide to reduce things, right? But again, we're gonna wait, right? We're gonna wait. We're gonna hold my judgment. Yeah. I like what I'm seeing. It's interesting though. Like there seems to be one thing that I'm sort of confused by. No, maybe not. Maybe I'm overthinking it. I was gonna say that there seems to be a large variation in the quality level of the work that you're putting out, right? For example, if we look at something like this from 9 months ago, and then we look at something like this, it feels... It feels like the individual asset quality has taken like a bigger jump. Maybe I'm reading into it though. This is really confusing, by the way, right? So you have your walkthrough video, and then you have your walkthrough videos again. But are they different? What is different? I don't really know. And I'm also not sure with how did you make this, right? This is the question that I'm asking right now. Is like, let's see. Because you started with this and then more added during development. But here's the thing, like when you do a breakdown, you want to showcase the things that you've done through the whole process, right? You don't want to showcase like, oh, this is what I started with and then I added more, you know? It's like that is not really giving me all the information that I need, right? I want to see you break down the stuff that is in the scene at the end of when you show things off, right? And also go and look at like any of my previous breakdowns, like all these clickable things where I have to wait for the model to load and then like render in and all that kind of stuff is wasting time. It is wasting a lot of time. No one's going to click on this, right? Keep them as simple individual images and do a breakdown that is just like a really snappy image. You want to have stuff be rendered quick. You don't want to add any friction into the loading time or into the amount of images or anything like that, right? Then you have your workflow here. Okay, so you have your block out phase 2, but phase 2 already looks like really well done. Taking details from high to low poly and then painting it. Okay. I'm honestly so confused. I have no idea what the hell's going on. Like, genuinely, this is my reaction, right? And that's why I was trying to preserve my opinion until the end. But in half of these images, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Right? So I'll give you a couple of examples. So if I take my pen, we're going to be scribbling a little bit. Also, hello, Batya. Good to see you. Okay, let's grab the pen. Let's do some scribbling, right? You tell me this is high to low poly baking and you've done your painting, right? Cool. I can see that. Why is literally this entire section empty? What is that used for? What? I have no clue. Is that just empty? Because that's like a huge waste of UV space, right? Which is bad. Maybe this is on a different texture, which also would be bad. Maybe different materials for some reason. I've no clue. So I'm asking a lot of questions with this stuff as well. I've no idea what's happening here, right? I also want to see more about this stuff. Like for this, I could see like a video that autoplays, right? Where you are literally taking a section of your level and you're painting stuff. That is a pretty good showcase of things. But yeah, I'm really confused. And we have this again, which is literally like the same image that we had here. So I'm so confused. This feels so scattered, and it doesn't feel like there's no thought process in how you present your work, right? So think about the information that you're trying to portray. Sometimes what actually might be helpful in this case, right? What might be helpful is share this to another artist friend and don't say anything. Just ask them like, hey, can you tell me what you think? Like, what do you think I'm trying to portray, right? Do a little bit of like user testing, right? So you tell them like, hey, this is my latest piece. Can you go through it and tell me what you're thinking that I'm trying to present, right? And just listen to them as they go through the whole thing. Because that might be really interesting and revealing for you to figure out that they also don't really know what's happening, like most of the time, right? I think this stuff is cool. I think this is actually like a pretty interesting breakdown of like, hey, this is how I designed the level. This is like how I stage things. And this is my inspiration for different areas. This stuff is cool. The rest of it, I don't think it's presented in like the best way. And it just feels like it's gone all over the place a little bit. Because also you have 4 different things talking about like one environment. You can easily make that one image, like one artwork, right? If you want to, I'll give you a structure, right? So usually what you want to start out with is an image that is pretty to look at, right? So this is like your main render, like your beauty shot is oftentimes what is referred to. You can have your main beauty shot, which is like, wow, this is looking awesome. Then you have some additional beauty shots or detail shots, right? From like nice little areas in the scene, or maybe certain angles that you really liked. All that kind of stuff can be done really well. Or like, I would start not really well, but like the sequence of this works already, right? Because we're trying to sell people like, hey, this is cool shit, you know? Pay attention to this. And then after that point, like once you have a couple of renders, let's say 1 beauty render and 3 other additional renders, right? That's it. Then we go into, okay, how did I actually make this, right? Then you go into the breakdown. And what I want you to showcase in the breakdown is pick one asset, break it down as in UVs, textures, poly count, wireframe, all that kind of stuff. One image only. And then you can do that for like maybe a couple other things that you find interesting, and then go into, okay, this is how I did the vertex painting, this is how I created the decals, this is how I did the set dressing, like, yeah, go into the nerdy stuff. But this is just like a whole bunch of screenshots, and honestly, most of them just don't look interesting enough. I think you've done a good job of like certain areas, right? Like if we put the camera down here, for example, let me see, right? There were, so this opening shot, if you don't have the person in there, can be like a good indication of like, okay, this could be like a cool little scene, right? I also keep seeing whip. Is this still being worked on? I'm so confused. Right. I'm just sort of collecting my thoughts here, right? Because if we're gonna be looking at something like this, like your portfolio. So what we're gonna be doing is we need to condense all of this stuff already into one art piece, right? We are going to do the same thing with the UI UX work because, again, that is not relevant to your current goals, right? It's fine that you still want to show this off, but condense it and make it valuable to the role of a 3D environment artist position, right? So put more of a focus on the modeling and the modeling and the material setup and all those things, and focus a bit less on the UI UX, right? Then we had all this stuff. I think game jams, we talked about that. That can stay, but present them as a professional project, right? Present them in the same way that you do the presentation of the thumbnail here. Think about it more in those terms, right? I think that could be really interesting. ZBrush studies, I don't think so, because it just feels like low effort study stuff. You can still show that off in like a blog, you know, as you're working on it, to share like what you're working on. But as an artwork on your portfolio that is meant to be catering towards your future clients, you don't want to have it on there, right? So we're gonna cut this out. Your background doesn't matter. Games I played doesn't matter. NDA doesn't matter. We're gonna clean it all up. This can go. This can go. Let's see. And then we get to the tricky stuff, right? Because I can already tell that I don't know what the time space between let's say this environment and this environment is, but it's already miles ahead of each other, right? This is way more interesting to look at than this thing is. So I would already say that this needs to go, this needs to go, and then we can potentially think about like keeping the rest, right? And this is what you need to do with your portfolio, right? Your portfolio needs to show off the best stuff that you can do. You need to be really, really picky with it. And then obviously we're going to keep the professional work. We haven't even looked at that, but you're just going to keep that regardless of the quality, because that's a showcase of you working in a professional development and showcasing your skills there, right? So you're going to see we are drastically shrinking down the amount of stuff on your portfolio in favor of quality. Now, there's also another thing that I saw, right? Like through the entire portfolio process, what I saw was there's a lot of fundamental work that still needs to be done in getting higher quality. The quality that you expect from like a AAA person to work in like a professional industry, we need to be able to hit that, right? So I think something along the scale of these ones, these dioramas that you're doing, is awesome, but focus on the quality, right? Really think about like, okay, how can I make the tidable textures better? How can I make the wood look better? How can I emphasize the silhouette? We need to be focusing on purely quality of things, right? And that would mean looking at your skill set, being really open with where you are now and how you can improve it going forward into the future, right? Let me see. Because, I mean, we had a look at a bunch of examples a couple of weeks ago. I haven't done like any work on it so far. But if we go, where is it again? So if we look at this presentation again, right, there were some like really good examples, and these are like uni students, right, most of the time. But you can tell that something like this, it has that like sense of quality, right? That's what we should be aiming for. Don't go big, like scale and scope doesn't really matter. I want you to focus on how can I make the individual elements look as good as they can, right? And that is usually by like starting small. We have Sheila, for example, here done an amazing job in like just taking something really small, like a diorama, and just really focusing on the quality of those elements, right? And you can see like detail has been paid to the silhouette of things, like everything is really nice, like it feels really readable, it has like that detail, that textural detail. This is the sort of stuff that I want to see more of, especially if you are trying to really boost your skills in a certain way, right? Going smaller and being able to focus on certain things is going to help you there a lot. Yeah, I'm not going to go into all the details here, but yeah, that was the thing that I saw, right? It's the quality bar needs to be higher, and we need to be able to achieve that in a shorter amount of time. So we're going to do smaller projects, right? For example, you can still apply the same sort of thinking on this environment, right? So if I go to like a random spot in here, you have like a day and night time cycle and all that kind of stuff. That stuff is all optional. I don't need that. Like, honestly, what I want to see is this single building. Like this single building, right? Like the Hitman reference that you brought up in the beginning. Make that as a diorama and make it super detailed, and that is going to be awesome to look at, right? I honestly don't need the rest of the environment yet. I want to see you honing your skills first, and then broadening out, right? Small scale hits home for me too, says Charlie. It's for everyone. This is a recommendation. Like, sometimes we want to go bigger before we have the skills to do small stuff even well, right? Just keep honing those skills on smaller stuff. The iteration time is way quicker. It allows you to learn stuff way faster, and then you can branch out once you have the skills, right? Because making stuff like this is really complex. Like, making it look good, AAA quality level, making a scene like this, really difficult. There's a lot of different things that you need to get right. And yeah, there's also no reason to showcase something big, right? When you can showcase something, you know, even something like this, right? Like the interior of this house. How can you make that the best possible version of the interior of the house, right? Like, what can you do to make this look even better than it does now, right? And that comes down to really going back to the drawing board when it comes to your references, looking at those references, and then being like, okay, this power block goes into the wall, right? But it feels like a pristine power block. Is that real? There's no damage around this power block. Huh, that's weird. Where do the cables connect to? Like, all those tiny things, right? All those tiny things add to the believability of it. So go smaller and focus on the quality. Yeah. So let's have a look. 3D modeled. So let me zoom in again here. Uh, 3D model with optimized geometry, poly count, LODs, and clean UVs. Yeah, ideally, what we want for this is to have like a breakdown of like what you've done, right? Because without it, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to gauge actually what you've done. However, I know for professional development, that's usually somewhat tricky, right? So that means that if you can't do it in your professional work, you will have to do that in your personal work. Because yeah, it looks like you've done a bunch of cool stuff, but it's just like really hard to gauge the work that you've done, right? And I'm assuming that this is just like a release trailer. Yeah. So, okay. Let's go back here. First thing that I would say is clean up your portfolio, right? Focus on quality over quantity. Quality. Oh my god. Clean up your portfolio, quality over quantity. Focus on smaller environments or dioramas even. or maybe even props, you know? At this point, I would love to see you do like a prop and really, really, really do a detailed version of that prop, you know? Because again, like if you wanna work for like the big AAA stuff, you need to convince them that you are gonna be the hire that they want, right? And that's not gonna happen with a portfolio that, even from the thumbnail perspective, feels very disorganized already, right? So we need to almost make your company more specific towards the thing that you want to aim for, right? So focus on smaller environments, dioramas, or props. I wouldn't even do environments. I would just do dioramas and props at this point. And then again, that environment that you were building last, shrink that down, and then you have the same kind of thing, right? Some of the other things that we talked about: remove the work. Remove work that's not relevant to your current goal. And then, yeah, just honestly, like, be very, very specific. Let's see. So hireability is pretty low at this point. Honestly, that is my main takeaway. Honestly, I have no clue. I have no clue from, and this is very direct, right? But I have no clue about what you've done yourself. First of all, I have no really clue about how you've done the things you've done, if you've done them yourself. Because again, like if we look at some of the presentations here, right? Like, let's stick to the latest ones. Like this is Blockout being a part of like the final presentation of something. I just have no clue. And then you go into your workflow, and then this is where it gets really confusing, right? Because you're breaking something down, but then you're showcasing me a lot of stuff that's not making sense at all. Like this is just empty. Again, it seems like there was we need to put more thought in the way that we present ourselves, right? If you want to work for a multinational, like internationally known professional company, you need to already showcase that you can be a part of that company before you even join them, right? So yeah, very confused. I think that's why the hireability is low. I think the presentation, it is pretty low. The artistry, I can see your growth, right? This is where I struggle a little bit, because I can see your growth. You transitioned also from doing like more UI, UX, motion stuff to like fully game stuff. So that transition is also really difficult to do. But yeah, I think the main thing that I'm struggling with is just I'm seeing artistic development, right? But that is being barred from me not knowing what you've done yourself, because there's just no real showcase of that apart from these things. But it's interesting because the quality of them seems to vary like wildly, which is, yeah, it's sometimes really difficult. Because some of this stuff looks really good, and then some of it looks like pretty basic, right? Yeah. I don't know. And again, maybe that comes from trying to build for scope, right? Trying to build more rather than less and making it higher quality. But yeah, artistry, pretty low. Techniques, I have no clue, honestly. So I'm going to give this a 1. I know that this feels like really crude, you know, but it's really hard. And here's the thing, like I can only gauge on what I see, right? So there are certain elements where like artistically, like I can see you having the potential, right? But then there's no way for me to confirm that because there's no breakdowns or no like things that I can look at to actually grasp onto, right? So that's making it really difficult. Because I would say you're growing as an artist, right? I don't want to take that away from you. And the stuff that you're building here from the thumbnail looks pretty interesting, but then as soon as you start like picking at it, it quickly falls apart, right? And I think that just comes from trying to go bigger than smaller. So yeah, hopefully that was helpful, Nicoletta. Yeah, what I would really recommend is, again, going smaller, really trying to nail the fundamentals, like baking down a high to a low poly, right? Doing texturing on a single asset, making a tileable that looks really good and focusing on the details. And then as soon as everything is like at a higher level, then go into a diorama and an environment afterwards, right? But try to build it up that way. Okay? If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to ask me, and then we can chat. Okay. Next up, we're going to go straight into the next one, unless we have some questions. I don't think we do, though. But yeah, Charlie said that the small scale hits home for me, too. Yeah, it is. It is honestly just a thing. And like, okay, like comparison is a thief of joy, right? But if we say, even with Darius, right? For example, this presentation of your portfolio, already just from the thumbnails themselves, looks way better, right? Just because it is presented in a way where I could easily see this being a part of a game, right? So that from the get-go, that initial impression is super impressive, or like super important. Because here's the thing, and I say this every time, right? I spend a lot of time looking at everyone's work. I have to, yeah, I spend a lot of time looking at people's portfolios, right? People in the industry will give you like 2 seconds when they're hiring. That's it. That's all you're gonna get. And if I immediately am like, yeah, probably not. That's it. Let me see. Are portfolio reviews available for only workshop or community members as well? No, they're available for everyone. It is separated. Yeah, I just saw your message as well on Discord, Nicoletta. It is separated in one folder, but I understand you. I have 30 game jams. I have to choose the better between them. Oh, no, if you have that many game jams, right, which is cool, just make one artwork that is called game jams, and then just have like all your favorite ones, you know? I mean, okay, maybe not all your favorite ones, but like pick your top 5 or something like that. It's more about like, how do you present the work in a way that is digestible and still shows you off in like a good way, right? Also, do you still have that page with examples of good portfolios for BE members? I saw that in a previous portfolio review sesh, but I couldn't find it on other on the site. So we do have this page here where you can see the leaderboard. And this is where you can kind of see like how people scored. This is still like pretty rudimentary, right? But these are all the people that I reviewed that you can have a look at. But I don't have that presentation where there's a bunch of good examples yet. I think that would also be really nice to incorporate that on the website too. Hopefully after the team challenge is done, I have some time to set up some more stuff. That would be awesome. All website changes are so cool. Thank you, Danny. Thank you. We have a bunch more coming. I'm doing a major redesign of the main landing page. So like the landing page that you land on, which I'm really excited for. But yeah, this is I think this is stuff that I'm really excited about. Like the back end where we have more of this stuff coming up, where people really get to interact and like post a portfolio and all that kind of stuff. I think I want to do more of that stuff in the future. And the same thing for team challenges. You know, make it somewhat more interactive. Oh, I'll show you another thing before we get into Darius's work. Let me actually see what the best way to showcase this. Because I was working on a community voting for the team challenges, right? Which I'm really excited about. I mean, I need to get like the final stuff for that done. But this is basically what we want to do this time is get the community involved with voting for the team challenges, right? That is a new thing that we're trying to do. And that's why I was working to the middle of the night, just trying to figure some stuff out. Because the main logic is there. And it looks pretty nice. So let me show you. Where is it? There we go. So if we open this guy, so you can see like there's still some placeholder stuff here, but like this is how you will be voting for the next challenge, right? And then you can kind of select like the ones that you like. You can go up to 3, and then you can kind of submit like your vote. And this is the sort of stuff that I have a lot of fun with building, because it's integrating the website into like everything, right? And making it all just like more encompassing. It's going to be really, really cool. And we get to do like a bunch of cool stuff like this, you know, which is really cool. And we want to try that for more stuff in the future as well. So, hey, if anyone has any ideas on what would be really cool for the website, just feel free to DM me about them, and then I'll see what I can do. Anyway, enough about the website. Let's dive into Darius's portfolio, right? So Darius, a Filipino 3D environment artist, awesome, living in the US. I'm a stylized environment artist, passionate for cultural influences in my work, primarily of the Philippines. I strive for environmental storytelling with unique visuals, strong fundamentals, and shader integration. I'm open to freelance work alongside part-time and full-time work. Okay, you're basically open for everything, right? If you're open for freelance and part-time and full-time, you can just say like, I'm open for any opportunities, right? But yeah, that's cool. I like what's going on. Let's have a look at the About page. You've got your resume here. Cool. Everything is nice and clickable. I like it. So this is what you're currently doing now. Freelance 3D environment artist and prop artist working for Roblox stuff. Yeah, I think we talked about that in the community. Cool. Oh, okay. You added the art challenge in here too, which is cool. I mean, yeah, I guess we talked about that, right? Like you could technically do that to kind of just showcase things on your portfolio. Same with game jams, potentially, unless you do, unless you're like really prolific, like Nicoletta, and then have like 30 of them, because you have to find a way to like showcase the best ones, I guess, right, on your CV. But yeah, cool stuff. So you're doing Roblox games. Is this all current? Oh no, this is current. And then you just rounded this one off like 2 months ago. I would probably, this is a tiny thing, but I would probably move the current one up top, because that's probably the first time you're going to read it, right? Statement. It is a little bit chaotic though. Like I would probably have an introduction to yourself like up top, so that it's like, Darius Jover, this is who I am, this is my experience, these are my competencies, and these are my awards, right? Sort of like that. Or maybe even your header, Darius Jover, then your bio, your little bio statement, your education probably, and then your experience and your awards. Probably. Yeah, overall pretty good. I mean, most of the comments that I would say would have to do with like design, right? Just because it feels like a lot of stuff is just like crammed together, and it just feels like one massive wall of text that I'm looking at. But I know that like the US specifically is like more into like using automatic, like the ATS systems, right? So you want to prefer readability over like anything else, I would guess. Yeah, cool stuff. Couple of comments there. Let's have a look at the portfolio. I'm gonna start out with the oldest one, 2 years ago. Bohr rocket launcher, stylized PBR, high poly project made in... What? What is that? GA375? What is that? I've never heard about that. Oh, it's a flight tracker. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. Now that I know that. So you can make models in a flight tracker? Okay, cool. With 22K polys and 43K tries, modeled and UV'd in 3ds Max, sculpted in ZBrush. Cool. It's a little overview. Wireframe, UVs, emissive. This is a whole bunch of stuff that can literally be condensed to like a couple of images, right? Like again, thinking about the presentation. I'm guessing, and this is just literally from looking at the thumbnails, that this looks really outdated compared to some of the stuff that we're going to be looking at in just a little bit. There might also be some issues with like pixel density, right? Where like certain things are like more detailed than others. But yeah, this is your oldest piece, right? So we're going to see how that squares up in the end. Located in Bataan, Central Luzon in the Philippines. I love that. This is sort of cool stuff to do, right? Like if you're inspired by like your local heritage or like stuff that you see when you go out and all that kind of stuff, like freaking awesome. Freaking awesome. This is really cool. Got a nice little presentation here. Small pieces. It's kind of hard to read them from this distance as like an initial impression. Maybe same thing here, like putting stuff close together so that I can see a bit more of it. Then we got the progress video. Here you got trim sheets. So they're all 2K. No, this is a 1K foliage sheet. Okay, so these are your albedo normal maps and all that kind of stuff. For these ones, I would probably do like a little video where you switch between them, you know, because otherwise it just takes up a lot of space for like no reason. So that's the way that I would probably play that. Nikhil is asking, can you please review my portfolio? I can, yeah. If you become a member and then you can sign up to get your portfolio reviewed. I sure can. Hey, a Ponda. I love it. Definitely not a Honda. It's a Ponda. Yeah, this stuff is really cool. I like it. This is also from 2 years ago, right? So, oh, interesting. Okay, so there's some Houdini stuff that came into play too. Interesting. So this is like your IV generator that you've made. Okay, interesting. So we got some Houdini knowledge as well. That I'm storing that in the back of my head. Okay, so you're using that from a tutorial, but you say that here, which is pretty good, right? Oh my god, of course McVal is popping into the chat. Houdini mentioned? What? Yeah, but honestly, like, okay, like 100% truth. This versus this, I'm always clicking on the left one. Because there is something about, like, and even if the scale and the scope of the environment is sort of relative, right? You showcasing it as a full world is always just going to look more attractive than something like this, right? And there's way to present it, like even a diorama, as like a full world, right? But this just looks, the jump from the thumbnail by themselves, like from here to here, is really good. So, posted last year. You're doing some cool stuff with the fonts and the typography. Very in line of Valorant. Really cool. The reason why I know is because like a lot of the website is also inspired by Valorant. I love their style. Even though I never played the game. But yeah, I mean, this stuff is good, right? Stuff is great. Great presentation as well. It's also, it's ambitious, right? But it's done well, and it showcases like the consistency between all the different surfaces and the textures. Yeah, and then showcasing like the last piece here. Really good. Really good. The only thing that I really have to say is that it feels like the colors are muted. Like it almost feels like I'm looking through like shades or something like that, right? Lily is saying, I love how Valorant looks, but I'm not a fan of shooters like that. Yeah, same here. 100%. I love how it looks. I love especially... Oh my god, there's I forgot his name, but like the principal UI designer breaking down like how he set up the branding for like Valorant. Oh my god, it's so good. So good. Yeah, Valorant fan art. And this is okay, this is a good example of how you do fan art. In a way of it's not hiding that it's fan art, right? Like you can definitely see it's Valorant, yeah, but fan art is clearly depicted on the thumbnail, so you know immediately it's fan art, right? This is very good. Very, very intentful way to present the way that you do fan art. Scroll down. Got your iterations here, which is good. Air conditioner assets. I love how minimal the normal map is. Interesting. That is also hinting that you didn't bake this prop down, right? So the sci-fi assets are literally just like only model geo, and then you didn't do a high to low poly bake. I mean, not that I necessarily mind, right? Because here's the thing, like if this was the only asset on your portfolio, I would be worried, right? Because I'm thinking like, oh my god, this person doesn't know how to like bake down like a high poly from a low poly, right? But then literally like you have your baked normal map here. You have this really cool asset that has like a baked normal map. So I know that you can do it. And this was just done with the intent of saving time, right? That makes a lot of sense. Because in certain cases, you just don't have the time or the production restrictions are there so that you can't do that, right? So, yeah. Let's see. And then you got like all your materials. Here's probably a good tip, right? I don't necessarily need you to present all your materials. I think what is sort of like a more elegant way of doing it is just picking the one that you spent the most time on and then presenting that, right? It's almost like you're showcasing the benchmark, and then all the other stuff, I mean, it's cool that you show it off, but I would put the focus on one thing and then just showcase another render that just has like a collection of and that just has like a collection down at the bottom, right? So what I'm talking about is, if I go and grab my pen again. My portfolio is on my YouTube channel. Can you please review it? Nope, unfortunately not. I have a lot of people waiting in the community, so unfortunately not. Let's see. So when I talk about this stuff, right? So you could have like one material sphere, and then you could break down like all the different texture maps, right? That could be like your main material. This could be like, this is a very rudimentary drawing of like what that could look like, right? As an example, that's your main material. That's the one that you spent the most time on. that is the one that you present as like, yeah, this is the best thing, right? And then for some of the other screenshots, what I would literally do is just go to, let's say, an angle of the environment. Let's say grab this, and then you could just be like, okay, this material here is tunk tunk. That's this material sphere. And then this material here, that's this material sphere. Something like that, right? Because if you want to present everything, you're going to end up, and you're kind of seeing this already in this post, right? You're going to end up with a lot of stuff, and it becomes really chunky. But a lot of the information is like very repetitive, right? So at a certain point, you lose the attention of people. And I think if you're doing something like this, and you have like, this is my main material, and then you have like your other materials just like nicely laid out, it condenses the post. And if you do that, the same thing for your assets as well. Or maybe you pick like the coolest asset here, right? Which I love this guy. And then maybe the other assets, you just put them like side by side with other stuff too. I think that's probably a better way to present it. Just in terms of like presenting your work in a more efficient manner, right? Spline meshes. Shader graphs, RGB masking, yeah, I would probably only showcase videos, because this stuff, yeah, I mean, I don't really attach like too much to this. Because this is like a very standard like RGB masking setup, right? There's nothing really too impressive about this. As in like, I mean, it's cool that you made it, but it's not out of the ordinary for, let's say someone else makes an RGB mask setup, it's going to look like pretty much similar. So I would really think about, okay, what is the thing that makes my scene unique, and then showcase that to the maximum extent, you know? Wobbling, that's cool. Because yeah, you can tell, right? There's a lot of content here. So sometimes it's also how to condense the material without sacrificing the cool stuff that you want to showcase, right? But again, presentation is on point. The way that you present this, the only thing, I mean, again, because your presentation is already so good as a base point, right? Then doing something where you just like crop out these things and put them on like the default like gradient background. Just a little bit more attention to detail, right? But that's just a small point in the grand scheme of things. Whenever you're doing these breakdowns as well, like showcase me like the, yeah, you got like 1K here. But it's, I'm looking here and I can't really see anything, right? So maybe keeping it close to, what I say, like close to the area where you're going to be focusing on, that's where you want the information to be clustered, right? Because otherwise you're forcing people to like look for it. But again, small stuff, right? I think those are like things that you could improve on in the future. I wouldn't necessarily redo the whole presentation. That's just going to be a waste of time. But small stuff that you can keep in the future. But yeah. Freaking awesome work. I mean, honestly, something to be really proud of, you know? Like a beautiful environment. You can smashed it. Okay, next one. Again, just, oh, so good. Is this also like inspired by Filipino culture? Because, I mean, it looks very unique. You know, and I think, God, we talked about that like almost a year ago or something like that. So I think it was inspired by it, but I can't remember the story behind it. Let me see here. Is there anything in here? Okay, so stylized environment loosely inspired by Filipino nipa huts and Visayan weaves. This stuff is really cool. You know, like if you have this in you, and you're like, hey, I really love like my culture where I'm from, right? No matter what culture that is, you can tell that it gives you like a unique approach to your environments, right? Because this is something that you don't really see, like the shapes and like all the weaving coming together. This is really unique just by itself. So yeah, really great stuff, man. Really great stuff. And again, presentation, consistency, really good looking stuff. And then if you look at like the main render, right, like the composition, really well thought out composition, the colors, the fading of the atmosphere. Yeah, really, really good. Samara saying that's nice. The first thing that came to mind was like Crash Bandicoot style. Yeah, it kind of has that feel, right? Like that sort of stylized kind of hype to it. Yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, good stuff. I love it. Let's see. Let's go through. Okay. Interesting. I would not hide them behind the material spheres, and I would not have a very busy thing in the background. Right? Like your material graph in the background. We're not going to read it anyway, so who cares? Just have like a very desaturated version of like your environment behind it, or like, I don't know, a relatively, what can we see? What can we use here? Because I don't know, you could almost take a render of your environment, but something that doesn't have like a lot of detail in it, as in like a lot of shapes, a lot of intent behind it, and then could use that as a background, right? Because we just want flavor for the background anyway. So yeah, what I would say is use like a bigger picture, something that doesn't have that much like noise in it, and then don't hide the textures behind the material sphere. Like make them visible, right? But yeah, again, presentation is on point. I love it. Yeah, okay, interesting thing here. I would love to see these with the final render, you know, so that I can see like which area from the texture is corresponding to which element of the texture of the model, right? So that I can see in context like how those two things like translate to each other. I know sometimes it's a pain with the wireframe, right, to get it rendered out, but like taking a bit of extra time there can definitely help. Yeah, honestly, really good stuff here. The shaders, I mean, the shaders are something that I talk about a lot when it comes to presenting them in this way. I personally don't really see the value in it. Other people said that it's quite interesting to look at. It probably depends on who you're talking about. So yeah, that's more up to you. The only thing that I'll say here is, for example, with something like this, right? You're trying to showcase something to me, but I can't even read like the individual nodes. So then I'm like, okay, for something like this, I would say it's not worth it. Not adding it. Don't add it on your portfolio. I think something like this is always way more interesting, right? Where you go in and you showcase all the stuff that you've done, and then as a professional, I can already make some assumptions about how you've done it, right? And then if there is something really unique, like let's say something technically really impressive, then showcase it to me, right? Plot trims. Yeah, I mean, really good stuff. Paint lines in your scene? Why is it smaller? Is that a GIF? That's probably why it's smaller. To paint the lines in your scene. Oh, you have these decals. Oh, interesting, but they're based on a spline. Okay. Yeah, to kind of follow around the curves. Yeah, interesting. This is cool stuff, right? This is cool stuff. This is like, okay, I need a spline, but I need them to like follow the shape. That's some cool stuff. I love it. But again, this is the cool thing, right? Like if you showcase it to me like this, I get what you did. right? And I don't need to see like your code or your spaghetti or anything that you've made for it. I can just tell by you doing this that you had a restriction in your scene that you solved with an inventive tool that you've built yourself, right? And that's all I need to know. Really cool. Really cool stuff. Yeah, I mean, this is a great example of there's so much stuff in here, but it never felt boring. You know, it never felt boring. It was always engaging. Sure, there was some things that I kind of disagree with, but even them, like I don't really mind that much. There was enough interesting stuff to keep me hooked along the way, right? So this is actually a case for you can have something that's really dense in terms of the amount of stuff that you're trying to cram into an individual artwork, right? But it can still be engaging. I think the issue is always when you have something that is really dense, but it's just boring to look at, right? That's where the issue is, because you have not gone through it yourself and you've not scrutinized your own work enough to then only pick the stuff that's really worth looking at, right? That's what you need to do with your portfolio, always. Concept sketches. I took a class of architectural visualization. Dude, I can tell, like you can, this is the argument that I'll make for doing, or at least trying to draw yourself or doing concept art or something like that on the side, because it gives you a much better understanding of shapes, forms, proportions, perspective, all those kind of things. And you end up with like more unique sort of silhouettes rather than doing it in 3D at the beginning. So yeah, awesome stuff. Oh, did you have help from Eugene Kim as well? I used the Planetary Ocean plugin from the water for Eugene Kim's procedural mesh blueprint. Hey, let's go! Yeah, we have a couple of people that we worked here. Javier Perez, Eugene Kim. Awesome people. Cool. And then we have the challenge. We're not going to spend too much time on it, because I know it. But yeah, this is, again, I think you've done a fantastic job. The entire team has done a fantastic job with this environment, by the way. This is probably one of my favorites if I had to pick, just because I love the boldness of the colors and I love how small it is, but it's so crammed full of like interesting stuff to look at. So yeah, really, really good job to you and the entire team, right? The only thing, let me see, actually. Wooden planks. Oh no, okay, so you made the wooden planks, you made the drums. Okay. Good shit. I like it. Okay. So let me actually go back to the beginning, because you asked me a question, right? So I really like a stylized junior entry option in the games industry. That is a nice part of my portfolio to that is a really nice part on my portfolio to really get the recruiter's attention. Wait, hold on. I'd really like a stylized junior. My brain's so jumbled. Okay, so you want to grab recruiters' attention, and more than anything, I want to make more art based around the Filipino culture. Right. So I think in your case, right? We haven't even looked at like the study you do, right? Too many requests. Okay. Okay, there's some cool stuff on here. I would honestly have these on your portfolio as well. Like even if it's just like a little video, you know, just showcasing that you've done these game jams can add a lot of interest to your portfolio, right? And again, whether you decide to have them as like game jams and then one art piece where you showcase all of them, or maybe you pick your favorite ones and you make like 2 or 3 posts out of it, that's up to you, right? But I would definitely make use of these. What I was curious about though is, so we're going to look at your activity, right? Because I think most of the stuff that you can gain from you doing your work is sharing more of your own stuff. Because the last post that you made was from 2 months ago, like 1 month ago, right? And then before that, a bunch of reposts. Can I filter? No. A bunch of reposts. And then you've made your own post here again, right? But that's from 8 months ago. So I think what you're suffering from is potentially not a work issue, it's a visibility issue, where you would need to think about what else you can do with your content that you make to then have more things to share. Sharing work in progress updates, or do more stuff around if you're crafting something, be more open about sharing it. Because and then even participating in portfolio day, again, it's the same thing with everything, right? It's that tenacity and that opportunism, trying to just get the most out of it, being being really open with how you share your work on a regular basis. And then the same thing, right? Do smaller stuff around Filipino culture. Could be really cool. Share how you're doing it. Share where the inspiration comes from. Share what the history behind the thing is that you're creating, right? You can interweave those two things. If that's really what you want to do, you can interweave those two elements and kind of share with the world what you've figured out, right? And that can be a really interesting journey for us to then follow along, as you're going on this journey of exploring Filipino culture in a way that is maybe unknown for a lot of people, right? I mean, Danny is saying, I feel very well represented. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? If you have something that makes you unique and you want to use that as a, or you want to express that, right? You don't want to use it, you want to express that more. Try to share it more with the world, right? Because I think it is a rich culture. We did a project about Philippine marketplaces, right? The first Beyond Extend Studios project that we've ever done. It was really cool to do that. Just learning about the culture and learning about jeepney culture and the culture that is kind of fading away because there's restriction. And there's all kinds of cool stuff that you can do with that, right? So yeah, I think honestly, hireability, pretty good. I would say, thinking about your hireability is more the way that you share yourself, right? It's a case of this book that I have here from Austin Kleon is Show Your Work. I think you have the work, you just need to showcase it more to the world, Presentation, really good. Artistry, really good. The only thing that I could say is it might be time to remove this or replace it with another asset that you've made yourself, right? That might be a good thing so that you can showcase what this would now look like, or maybe another asset, what this would look like now, because this feels really old compared to some of the other cooler stuff that you're doing recently, Techniques, really good. So let me see. Yeah, I think in terms of representing your techniques, I think you're doing a decent job. I'm trying to think how they compare, right? Your techniques versus artistic skill. Because your artistic skill is definitely better than your technique showcase currently, right? So this is sort of where I would land, I think. You'd be surprised how much Filipino culture has influenced gaming culture in the past, or gaming creativity in the past. Halo's Covenant faction is a good example. Oh yeah. Yeah, and that's what I mean, right? I think that's something what we are... It's interesting. We have more diversity in games than we've ever had, but it feels like the the actual very unique cultural representation still needs to deserve a spot, right? Because it's no secret that like when you're making a AAA game, you're not going to make something so niche that it doesn't sell copies, right? So that makes sense to me. You need like a wide target audience to like hit and then recoup the costs, right? But yeah, there's such an untapped market there still in indie games even, you know, like to really dive into like really unique things. And the thing that I always love is that when you have a person who's really passionate about their culture and they're putting that into their work, that's always going to create like a unique spin, you know? And you're still doing it with like industry relevant workflows, so that's not going to cost you any points, but you're making something that's truly yours and that you can be proud of rather than only doing it for the industry, let's say. So yeah, overall, like really impressive work. What stood out to me was actually your great use / knowledge of art fundamentals, right? I think that's something that I somewhat understated, but you really clearly showcase a good knowledge in composition, like really using shapes and silhouettes and colors in like really effective ways. So I think that's something that really stands out to me. But yeah, my recommendation is really getting better at how you share your work. And try to think about it in more of a social media perspective, right? Where you land on that spectrum is up to you. But I think if you want to get attention from people, that means that you have to be more open with sharing the work that you're doing, right? And I think that comes with like, you can then devise your own strategy, right? If your strategy is like, oh, I'm going to dive into like Filipino culture and that's going to be like my main focal point, so that you can kind of mix the thing that you're making with an explanation of like Filipino like art history or something like that, right? Or cultural history. That could be a good angle. If you just want to keep it to the work, that's also fine. But it's up to you to choose. It's up to you to choose how you're going to present it, but try to devise a strategy that works for the way that you want to share your work online, right? And share it with other people. Because if the main thing that you're getting now, I think, again, your work is fantastic. I think where you get your inspirations from and how you integrate that in your art is really, really good. I think visibility is more of an issue with you, right? Try to not make it salesy. Try to make it more about like, hey, this is what I learned and this is how I then create my art around that, you know, like try to come at it from this like semi learner / educational angle rather than anything else. Spinom Car is saying, is Darius around? Thanks for representing Filipino culture through your art. I love your work. Says a fellow Filipino. Thank you so much for saying that. I'm pretty sure that I don't think he's around, but he will definitely watch the recording. So yeah. And if not, I will let him know. But thank you for saying that. That's awesome. So yeah, my recommendation is to get better at how you share your art, right? That would be the main thing to focus on. And try to think more from like a social media perspective. What I would do, for example, is it should be around 6 a.m. his time. Yeah, that might be why he's not here. What I would recommend is, and again, we've said this in the beginning. We kind of discussed this in the beginning of the stream, right? Like, find clusters online where those people gather, right? Not only people from like Filipino culture, but also like maybe Filipino game developers or yeah, those culture, like not cultures, but like those groups exist, and post there, you know, like give them exposure to your work as well. Because if let's say there's like, and there's a bunch of Filipino like game developers, I think one of my favorite games. This is like an indie game called Coffee Talk. I think the main person behind it was also Filipino, if I'm not mistaken. I think he unfortunately passed away though. But I think, God, what is the company's name again? Togi Productions. I think they're Filipino as well. So I get the feeling that there is like an indie development hub happening there, even from like looking at the outside. So if you can get in touch with them and then strike up that conversation with them and then kind of bring Filipino culture more to the forefront, that is like a common goal, right? So if you can work together with them, that would be awesome. That might be a good... Ooh, okay. That's a good shout, Danny. So mostly on Facebook, if Darius is interested in that avenue. Sure, this is the thing, right? Like, to me, if that is a thing, if let's say I want to really work on like games that represent the Philippines, right? I will go to the place where they need me. I don't care if it's Facebook. I'll make a Facebook account and I'll go there, you know? So I would actually recommend, Danny, like, just if you have some groups, reach out to Darius on Discord and let him know. You know, if you have some addresses that he can come and knocking, I'm sure that he'll appreciate it. But yeah, awesome stuff, Darius. I think, yeah, again, your portfolio is in really good hands. You've done an amazing job. Now it just becomes about, you know, like sharing the work, you know, while you're also still building the work yourself, right? I know you're working on something really, really cool, so I can't wait for you to show it off. But yeah, 100%. Yeah, thanks, Danny. Definitely Facebook. It's interesting that Facebook is still so used in like certain parts of the world, where like it feels like Central Europe has moved away from like Facebook really hard. Especially, even, this is gonna be weird, even my mom doesn't use it anymore. You know, she's on WhatsApp now. She's like, nah, we had our Facebook time and it was like Facebook Messenger was a thing that we kept, you know, but yeah, even she's no longer using it. Right. I think we'll see, my camera might die in just a second. But yeah, I appreciate you all being here. Thanks for the stream, Timothy. I'm picking up and learning through your feedback. Yeah, awesome. Okay, I think what I'm going to be doing is, I think we're going to end things here. Unfortunately, I do have a lot of stuff that I need to take care of, and I have like a mentorship in like an hour, I think, too. So I really appreciate you all sitting here until the very end, talking about like really interesting takes on Filipino culture and how Darius and both Nicoleta. Oh, there's one more thing before I go. Here's Nicoleta's portfolio, and here's Darius's portfolio. Go check them both out. Go give them both a follow. Be a part of their progress, you know, be a part of their artistic journey as they develop themselves. Because yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where both of them are going to go. And then, yeah, without further ado, I'm going to take my leave. I'm going to take a little bit of a break, and then I'm going to get back into some more work. So thank you all for being here. Have a nice day, and we'll see each other next Wednesday. Bye-bye.